Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 99 of the Avocado Games Cast, the Avocado's gaming podcast. My name's Merve, and we've got a great show lined up for you today. We're going to be looking ahead towards the rest of 2024, giving you our predictions and also discussing our most anticipated games of the year. For this episode, I'm joined by two amazing people. First up, don't ask for the clicker when you're watching TV, or he might bring you cordyceps. It's Captain Blasto.
Hey,
And also joining me, when he had shots at Ungoy, he made sure to return them to Awa. It's the Kappa.
Yeah, I love that little moment where they like peacefully touch the things they murder. Go with the spirit thing that was alive before.
Exactly. Can you imagine how much slower Halo would have been if Master Chief had to stop to give a funeral to everyone he killed?
And like only certain animals get it, like the aggressive ones. You're like, yeah, fuck you. Like
Yeah.
that spirit can go wherever. And then like the other ones are like, oh, little noble horse-looking creature. But those little rat dogs that chase you all around. I don't remember many prayers on their corpses, right?
Oh, you know what I do? Because what I found out in that game is, and we'll get to this in a little bit, your melee attack is hilariously overpowered. I
Oh
just
yeah,
punch them to death.
you punch them like through the wall.
I just punch like three punches, and those little wolf dog things with like the six legs are down. It's
That's
great.
hilarious. Yeah. Anyway, we'll be talking some Avatar in a little bit, so all you fellow AWA heads, get your recording devices ready.
Yeah, listen to us talk about blue people. Speaking of people who aren't blue, have you folks been watching AGDQ at all? Because it's
I
going on
watched a
right now.
few. Yeah. You know, more and more, I kind of feel like, man, it's hard to get old, right? But like, does it kind of feel like speedrunning's kind of entered a different phase in some ways than just playing a game really fast now? Like, almost like everything has like other goals or necessities, or like I'm going to do this one weird thing that nobody else does, or like
well,
using this glitch.
that's like the age of streaming now. You
Yeah.
know, like you got to have you want to draw in more people than you did last year, so that you can get more money for charity when you're doing this kind of thing. And I mean, what do you do
Yeah,
to
it's not
get in
just enough to go
people who like?
fast.
Yeah, like because I personally am not that into speed running, so
Mhm.
I'll say I've never paid all that much attention to it, but I did definitely read about like the drum kit run and the dog run because that's weird, like you
Mhm.
don't see that every day.
Oh, I haven't
Uh,
seen the dog run yet, but I did see the drum kit run of Super Mario 64, which is one of the most bizarre and impressive things I've ever seen. This guy configured an electronic drum kit to essentially replicate an N64 controller's inputs, and so he would do different kinds of drum patterns on his electronic toms to move Mario around, and one drum, like one symbol was A, one symbol was B. I think Z was one of the pedals.
So let me ask you guys this: are you like purists when it comes to speedrun? Like you got to be playing it like the way the game was meant to play, or does any glitch go, or like anything that the game will let you do, or like what do you like when you see a speed run?
I feel like
Depend.
if the game lets you do it, it's not cheating. Like
Okay.
and like the to me like the interesting part about speedruns is people finding all that stuff to like cut their time. Like I've definitely watched some Breath of the Wild ones where people just like, you know, as soon as they got their abilities, like launched themselves off a log straight to Hyrule Castle and went and fought Ganon with like 3 hearts in their underwear, and that rules.
Well,
Like
let
that's
me. This was the one I did see. One clip I saw. I can't. It was one of the Souls games. I want to say it was like maybe three, but someone did some glitch at the beginning where you bought some stuff and it like you bought so much it turned into a negative amount, and then you buy something else and it turns into a positive, and you have 99 of the like the whatever items, and he instantly leveled up his weapon to be like a +5, so that he could basically play the rest of the game with a glitched out super weapon. In my mind, I was kind of like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if that's like the purist in me, or if it's just like everybody just accepts, yeah, you can do that, but just kind of weird. I thought that
to me
was
that is a little less interesting.
right. I
I mean, people who like just find like weird ways to shave stuff off their time by like clipping through walls or whatever, like I'm cool with that, you know.
So,
But
like in your example with Zelda, though, like now that guy's up there fighting with a stick and 3 hearts, right? But if he
yeah,
did something so that he did that and also had like a max tier master sword up there, I don't know. Like
yeah,
it's I don't want to like diminish the accomplishments, but it just kind of feels like there's a lot of like ups and downs now with speedrunning, right? Like kind of like I don't know, purist versus just get it done versus anything goes kind of.
I'll say in favor of like item duplication glitches. There was one early on when Tears of the Kingdom came out that Nintendo pretty quickly patched out, but I was able to take advantage of it when I was playing through, and I had a much better time for it.
I believe it. That item durability and weight are two systems I cannot believe still exist in modern gaming. I think both of them need to be brought out behind the shed, and that's it. I cannot believe item durability and weight is still a thing. You
Well,
know?
for me, it was just about like uh, getting mass amounts of materials so that I could do what you were talking about in that speed run where I upgraded all my armor like super early on in my run, uh, and like made it a point to go acquire as much of the good armor as I could and get it fully upgraded so that I could, you know, have an easier time with combat.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
But you're not like competing for a, you know what I mean, like a.
Correct. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not trying to get any internet clout from doing that. It's just how I prefer to play the game.
Oh yeah, I cheat like crazy. You're not gonna hear me say anything else. So. But yeah, so I mean, I tend to watch a lot of the speed runs that pop up when Merve or somebody else says, "Hey, this awesome thing happened." So maybe that's like the juice that GDQ needs is like, "Hey, this is the thing that makes people watch is, you know, influencers or streamers or whoever kind of
Engagement.
engaging." Yeah, exactly.
Um, I will say the dog one was awesome. It was basically the same thing that the drum guy did, but he wired it up to like a controller with really big buttons on the floor that his dog could press. And
Oh,
he
that's
like
really
gave
cool.
his dog commands, and the dog played the fucking game. It was amazing.
That's
awesome.
incredible.
Yeah. So, as far as what I've been playing over the holidays, I've been playing a game that I've got to say thanks to someone on the Avocado for recommending, except it's Didactomanoia.
Didactauto.
Yeah, he recommended a game for me, and it has been a hit for me. It's a game called Regiments, and it's from a Milsim family tree that I think a lot of people may have probably missed, like Red Dragon, War Game, a lot of those War Game games that came out where you're basically playing a Cold War battle with units being represented and like very complicated chains of command and very rock paper scissories where you've got helicopters beat tanks, tanks beat infantry, infantry beat helicopters, that kind of feel to it. But using very, very, very down to like the individual person level of like combat troops and tanks and stuff like that. So there used to be a name for this. It was called Grognard. Do you remember Grognard War Sims used to be a thing? That's kind of what this is like, where like you're getting down to like, will a 1980 Soviet BTR defeat a 1979 M113 or whatever? And it's fun. It's a lot of fun. It's very, very, very difficult too. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because of the game being made by a company. I'm going to let you take a guess. You think of an old school game company that might make a game like this, might publish it.
Bohemia Interactive.
No, that would be my first guess as well.
Okay, I'm out. I can't
You're
guess.
Out. Microprose.
Oh, really?
That's kind of weird, right?
Same folks who published Roller Coaster Tycoon originally, right?
And I mean, like, I didn't think they were totally out of the game, but I haven't heard of a Microprose game in a minute,
Oh, I gotta look this up.
Yeah, and I was like, good for them, still out there making games and stuff. Because I think, everybody's got that, like, what did you grow up on series of games, and Microprose might be like my top 5 or 6, games that I grew up playing. They had that B-17 game that was very, very, very good. But then they also had like little weird they were in that time frame where like they would make like a stealth fighter bomber game, you know. But then they would
Yeah.
also make some like little weird like they made Civ, you know. They were I think the first before Sid Meier made Firaxis, maybe the first three Civs, first two. But I mean they're making XCOM, they're making, I mean, so many good things that I remember growing up. And my favorite Microprose game is Covert Action. You remember that one?
No.
Okay.
That I think that was a little before my time.
Oh god, that made me feel. It's so they tried to make like a James Bond game, right? And it's like the way they made it is very silly. It's just like it's almost like a Wario game of mini games, right? So when you hack someone's phone, there's a mini game. Um, like if you tail someone's car, there's a mini game. It's just like a
Was a
leveled
Sid Meier
mystery
thing.
game. Yeah, yeah, and this was when he was so similar to. Did you ever play his Pirates game?
I did not. No.
Okay, so similar to that game, he kind of like mini gamed up just a theme, right? So Sid Meier's Pirates was you would have like a duel and you would use the numpad, right? And like like seven would be like high parry or like, and then so you were kind of playing these like mini games inside of the game itself. There was a dancing mini game that was really fun, where you had to dance with the governor's daughter to get intel and stuff. So Sid Meier kind of had this little period where he was trying to tell stories through mini games that I feel like was way ahead of its time, right? Like this would be like a Quantic game almost today, QTEs and stuff like that. But when this came out, like kind of mixed results, you know. But I really love these older Microprose games, and this was one of the top three for me. So anyway, it brings me back to Regiments. Great game. You're playing that classic. What happens if the Soviets decide to push through Germany? And you got a little bit of NATO, you've got a little bit of America, a little bit of Europe, a lot of Russia, and just kind of fighting these tanks. And I like those kind of games because it makes you think about like the bigger picture and stuff. But also it's interesting to control battles and see all the wacky stuff that can happen. And this game is full of wacky stuff. So not comedic, but just like, oh, where did that come from? So if you're into war games, and I want to thank Didact for also being into it, check out Regiments.
Yeah, I'm looking at this right now on Steam, and I mean this in a good way. It looks like a game that's like 10 years old.
Yeah, yeah.
In the sense that like it seems like they saved some resources on making it look like super spiffy with like ray traced units or whatever. And instead, they just focus on something that looks pretty crunchy. I love that you got this bird's eye view and you can see the plots of agricultural land from the sky. I like what they got going on here. It looks really neat.
Yeah, yeah, and that's that old style of war game that it used to. I'm not gonna say dominate, but like when you would play war games, there was like, okay, this is the arcadey stuff, and this is for the real mill sim fans, right? And this one straddles that line. It's right between the two, right? It's crunchy enough that you're like looking at different like ratings of armor penetration on tanks, but also, yeah, the tank shoots pretty far away and blows up tanks, right? And war game. I think there's another game called Warno. A lot of them had it, but fiending for RTS is always a common theme for me across the years, and this is like kind of an offshoot of it that really slipped under my radar. So I'm glad someone pointed it out to me.
Interesting. All right, Blasto, what have you been playing?
So I've not been playing a whole lot of traditional video games lately, but I've been doing a lot of puzzles.
Oh, wow.
Not jigsaw puzzles, but like crosswords, number puzzles. I got a early access invite back in October, I think, from Derek Sanskrit of Gamological Society fame, to Puzzmo, which is this thing by Zach Gage and what is it? Orta. I need to look up
Opus
Orta
Magnum?
Thoreau. And so It's like a daily puzzle site, and they got picked up by Hearst newspapers and magazines. So I guess they're printed in some cases too. But I play daily on the web, and it's just a variety of puzzles, some of which are games that he had published on iOS and Android prior to the launch of Puzzmo, some of which are brand new. There's a daily crossword that's always like a kind of MIDI level, like a kind of like 7x7 or 10x10 sort of deal, as opposed to a full-fledged crossword. And the really cool thing that they do with their crosswords is that they tell you a little bit after you solve it. They tell you a little bit like about who made it. You get a note from the person who constructed the puzzle and a note from the editor who like helped punch up the clues and stuff about what they liked about it and how they
That's
found
really cool.
this puzzle maker.
That's really cool.
So do they have like guest puzzle designers, or is it the same like core team of people?
It's mostly the same core team, but they do bring in other people on occasion. And they also, like in the last week, they opened it up to users of the site who've never been paid to design a crossword before. They said, we're accepting submissions specifically from this group of people. And so those are, I think one was published today. And it was a really fun crossword to do, and it was kind of different from anything I'd done before on the site. And then a couple of weeks ago, they featured somebody who was a co-creator of a similar website called the Puzzle Society, which has like, I don't know, probably upwards of a dozen crosswords to do each day, and like a whole bunch of other games. They're kind of operating at a larger scale than Puzzmo.
Can I ask real quick? Is it like a subscription service, or is it like?
So they're free, but you get to play more games if you subscribe.
Okay.
And there's no like nudges to get you to subscribe, which is kind of like on the Puzzle Society. Every time you open up a puzzle, it's like you could do more if you subscribed, and you have to kind of like X out of that box.
Okay.
But I mean, it's like $35 a year for Puzzmo. It's $40 per year. But if you subscribe, you can gift subscriptions to your friends for a little bit less than that. I gifted a couple to some buddies over the holidays for what, $25 for the year, I think.
That's really nice. Yeah, that's not a bad price point actually.
And I was able to get in early on their lifetime subscription for Puzzmo, so I'm a lifetime user until, the way they put it, the heat death of the universe. And it's great, man. I've had a really good time. It's something that I do every morning when I have my coffee, and then now that I've gotten in on the Puzzle Society, it's like kind of throughout the day. Like if I get bored at work or I just need to stimulate my brain a little bit, I'll fire it up. And it's all just done in browser. Like neither one of them have native apps for iOS, or I don't believe Android either yet.
That's really refreshing.
Yeah.
I love when things just work in browser.
Yeah, so many of these things, like these apps, like they catch fire. People get into them, and they sell the app, and nobody ends up using it because it all like turns into like some, ad-loaded shit fest. So that's really cool that they've kind of already steered clear of that.
And not only that, but they both work spectacularly whether you're on a desktop with a big screen or on mobile. Like they're both really well attuned to touchscreen interfaces on mobile devices. But you can also like use your keyboard to input stuff on the word puzzles if you're on a desktop. It's fantastic.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Those puzzle games, man, when they catch on, it's like a cultural movement sometimes. So
yeah,
I'm sure everybody wants to catch that lightning in a bottle of like a Wordle again. But the problem is once it starts to make money, it becomes Wordle, right? So.
Well, that's actually like they have like a little manifesto on the Puzzmo website where they talk about how like they saw Wordle taking off and we're like, okay, so there's clearly like a hunger for this. And then when they got acquired by the New York Times, they were like checking out the New York Times Games app, and it's like you could do so much more to make this like a social experience.
Mm-hmm.
They have global leaderboards every day. You can make groups of users where you all like compete with each other. You can solve puzzles co-op with your friends.
That's cool because like you got a friend who's good at crosswords and a friend who's good at Sudoku or something, right?
Yeah.
And then you
make
kind of like form
puzzle
like a
league.
guild.
Yeah.
Puzzle guild.
Yeah, I think that this kind of social aspect of puzzle solving is kind of underserved. Like, I think we kind of peaked at that whole emoji sharing feature Wordle had, and then all of Wordle clones went and adopted it, but we never really went beyond that,
But
which is
the
a bit of
first
shame
What
because
was Words with Friends? Remember when that kind of took off and they tried to add more social but less social stuff into it? And I think that kind of was like one of the bad test cases as well.
I mean,
Yeah,
Words with Friends is like a two-player game, like just asynchronous, right? Like all of these are like solitary experiences that you make social by comparing
Right.
results, and I think that is kind of underserved to some degree. Like I, I'm all about leaderboards and things like that. I just think it's fun to compare where I am as compared to my friends. But I don't know. It seems
Plus,
like
plus,
more could be done in this regard.
yeah, and what he was saying about like you have that angle of like the people who made the puzzle being like, oh yeah, this is what we were going for. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Because a lot of times I've solved puzzles just by dumb luck, and I'm like, I would love to know what I was actually supposed to. I feel like every video game I played, where it's got like the turn on this lamp and it turns off this lamp, and then you turn on this lamp and it turns off two lamps. That type of puzzle, like
Yeah.
it's like a
Yeah,
mathematical puzzle. People who can do
Yeah.
math are probably like, oh yeah, this is super easy. For me, I've
I have a
found that
math degree, and I would say it's not super easy. Like,
well,
They
I
have
know in
they
theory,
have
like,
a thing
here's
like
the
that
thing.
on
I know what
Puzzle
I'd have to
Society
do
as well too.
to solve these, right? Like, I'd have to backwards induct. I'm just lazy. I don't want to freaking, like, I don't come to video games to do, like, decision theory. I come to video games to, like, solve cool puzzles that aren't the kind of puzzles I solve
like
at work,
that
right?
puzzle's been in games for 30 years now, and I feel like every single time I've gotten one right, it was like pure luck. I feel like I just kept clicking until it's like, yep, door opens. So,
The
it
other
was,
fantastic thing about Puzzmo is the user interface, like from the font choices to the color palette. It's all just like very playful and makes you want to engage with it every day.
absolutely.
It's just one of my favorite experiences I've had in a really long time playing games.
Yeah, glad to hear that you've been enjoying it.
Zach Gage has never missed. I don't know if y'all have ever played any of his mobile stuff, but he's fantastic.
So the only game that I can think of his off the top of my head, I think he made Opus Magnum. Or am I confusing that with someone else? I can just look this up, right? I can look up whether
I think that's Zach Barth.
uh, it's a Zachtronics game, but is there more than one Zach Gage and
Uh,
Zachtronics?
the Zach puzzle lines are, I mean, it's just lousy with Zach's in the puzzle world.
There's so many
No,
too
no,
many
yeah,
puzzle
just
Zachs.
kidding.
Oh wait, uh, I'm gonna come
Like he
out.
was involved with ridiculous fishing. He
Oh,
has a game
ridiculous
called
Oh
fishing.
right,
uh,
okay.
Yeah.
he has a game called
Zach
Really
Barth
Bad
and Zach Gage
Chess.
are two different people. Okay, now I know.
Good Sudoku is one that was played by a bunch of people on the Gameological Discord. And speaking of Discord, they also have a super active Discord server at Puzzmo, where subscribers and non-subscribers alike can interact with with Zach and Orta and Brooke, who's their crosswords editor, and like discuss the shape of the site and where things are headed. And they're just super engaged with their community in a way that's really, really refreshing to see.
That is good to hear. Because like especially with puzzles and stuff like that, getting to kind of get inside the designer's head and see where they were coming from, I think that's really cool. All right. As for what I've been playing, I'm not confused about who made this game. By the way, I'm not going to confuse the studio and like confuse Massive Entertainment with Monolith. I've been playing Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora. I finally picked this up. I think towards the end of last year. maybe earlier this year. I can't remember when exactly I bought it, and I'm too lazy to open the Epic Games Store right now to
It's
check.
been on sale already a couple times, which
Yeah.
never bodes well. But also, who knows, like what their sales predictions were for this.
Yeah, I assume they expected it to do better than it probably did, but we don't have sales figures for it yet.
Yeah.
So I think the lukewarm critical reception probably killed it.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, putting it off cycle with the movie release, and I hate to say that you should do that because that's why licensed games were terrible for so long. But I feel like this is the kind of thing where you've got to kind of ride that wave of excitement of people who were into the movie, and they missed that window.
Oh, 100% agreed. I just don't think people are really itching for an Avatar game right now. So to explain what kind of game this is, it's a first-person open-world exploration and combat game. Bears a lot of superficial similarities to the Far Cry series after the first game in that series, which was not an open-world game. And I say superficially deliberately. It's the similarities are not like I'll get to it in a little bit, but there's like similarities in how you approach combat encounters and similarities in the fact that you're in a lush environment and you're exploring a bit. But like beyond that, they're not very similar.
Yeah, that was my take too. I didn't get the feel of Far Cry from moment to moment in the game. It wasn't
absolutely not.
Yeah, it wasn't screaming out to me, "You're playing a Far Cry game with an Avatar skin over it," So I had the exact same reaction, I think, as you did there, where I wasn't feeling like, okay, this is like Far Cry Primal, or this is like Far Cry Blood Dragon. Remember when they would make those Far Cry games that weren't Far Cry games?
Yeah.
This felt like they started with, I think, the DNA of an Assassin's Creed, and I think went from there and added the Far Cry to it rather than the other way around. It definitely has
100%. 100%. Like they started with, I don't know if it was specifically Assassin's Creed, but I think this was once a very, very different game. And there were rumors that it had a kind of troubled development cycle where they couldn't really find the funds, so they went and essentially ended up making it more generic. But you can see the vestiges of a very different game in there.
I wonder if it's got some platformer DNA to it. Like,
absolutely. 100%.
Yeah, like when you're playing, like when you're getting across the map and like you see a plant and it's like the plant that boosts you into the air or the plant that bumps you or the plant, you know what I mean? Like it almost feels like that was designed for like a Trine type game where you're seeing it in that like 2.5D almost, but the exploration and just the movement in the game feels it's hard to even compare to anything else because it's not Assassin's Creed because you're in an open world jungle most of the time, and so
I've compared it to a high-speed Death Stranding.
Yeah, that's a good one too. Or like maybe like Mirror's Edge at its best, but without like the on rails to it.
Death Stranding, you have my attention.
Yeah, it's like imagine Death Stranding crossed with like I don't want to oversell it because it doesn't have like hardcore parkour mechanics, but it's like Death Stranding crossed with Dying Light.
There's a lot of times where you see something and you want to get to it, and you have to develop a way to get there. And
that is 100% the Death Stranding model.
Yeah. And it doesn't feel like Far Cry where it's like, well, I walk towards it. That's how I get there. This game, there's a lot more going on with just like the traversal, I guess, of Pandora. And it feels cool because, the whole thing about the game, the overarching story is you're reclaiming your birthright, right? You were stolen by the humans. You're here to basically figure out what it means to be a Na'vi, right? And you're getting in touch with Pandora. And the way it does it is kind of like ingrained in the game. And it sounds dumb, but I really mean it. Like just getting a partner, like, oh, I'm learning what this plant is. I can see like a flower 500 feet away and I know what it is and I know what it does and I can use it and I can heal myself with it. That's weird because like you don't really get that from a lot of other games where like the terrain is just there to get through. This game, it feels like the terrain is just as much a part of the game as the characters are. So I can't say enough good shit about just moving around in this game. It's good.
So on that point, actually, what I think is really interesting about that is thematically, like you said, this is about very much a game about learning the world around you and its ecology and the interrelationships between all these different species and these plants and what they do. And that forms the backbone of how you navigate the world and how and what resources you draw from it, etc. So there is this really nice synergy between like the narrative themes of the game and how you exist in that world and how you traverse it, which I was not expecting when I went in. I was expecting something a lot more like Far Cry with blue people.
Yeah. Like you just loot the corpses and move on. Yeah.
To be honest, in this game's worst moments, it's like Far Cry with blue people. Basically, like any like stronghold kind of thing
the
where you're kind of
shoot parts. Yeah.
like the shooty shoot bits are the worst parts of the game, unfortunately. Like I just don't think the combat in this game is very good, and like stealth is underdeveloped because just detected pretty much right away, and then it's time for shooty.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I mean, it seems like everything in the game is either one shot or like trivial or like a boss. There's not a lot of in between. There's not a lot of reason to do anything tactically. But this is a weird example, and let me know if like this like registered with you or like if you agree with it. But like the first time I went to go pick a plant, right? Like, what do you do in 99% of games where you pick a plant, right? Hold X to pick a plant, right? And then in this game, it's like there's certain types of plants that are like you harvest a certain way. And if you harvest it at the right time and like gently, like you have like care for the plant that you're picking, you get better stuff. I've never really even thought about that in a game, right? Like I hold X to pick plants, but this one it's like, hey, you can either just like snap this branch off the fucking tree and probably kill the tree, or you can like guide it along the way that the branch breaks cleanly and you get better loot as well as like, theoretically don't destroy the tree as well. That's like genius to me. I've never even thought about that in a game. You're just walking around picking up stuff. Not there are some stuff that you just hold X to pick up, right? But I thought that was a really just like interesting mechanic when you're really pushing for like, hey, this planet it means more than just your average like go around use it for loot shit.
Yeah, like we said earlier, it really is a game that's about making you understand the environment you're in and respect it. And to be honest, I think it was even more in that direction in an earlier iteration of this game, and it kind of got leached out a little bit. Like you can sense that probably there was a version of this game where you navigated almost entirely with your Navi senses. You
I could see
like
that.
had to like pay very close attention to the dialogue and what people tell you about where people are located, where to find certain plants, etc. And you really had to read the codex entries to figure out where to go to find anything. And if you play with like the guided experience turned off, it almost is like that, and it's really frustrating to play because sometimes the game will tell you to go somewhere where there's no way you've been to it yet.
Yeah. I'm doing the same.
That ends up being really irritating.
And
So
you get ambushed so much more. It's like frustrating. Like you go like wander into territories that you definitely shouldn't be in and just get murdered. And you're like, oh, thanks for that game. But
I feel like a version of that they really tweaked and honed could have been something really, really special instead of a game that I'm like, okay, this is pretty good.
7 out of 10. Yeah, I agree. I mean, but let me ask you, do you think it pushes you towards the Navi weapons, the Navi stuff over the human stuff as well?
I would say not enough.
Okay.
Like the assault rifle is just so overpowered that you get early on. I'm not that far into the game. I haven't even gotten my Ecron yet. I'm very close to getting the Ecron.
Yeah.
I think that'll change things a lot.
Yeah, post Ecron, I'm going to be curious where you go from for there because it does feel like the game is balanced around the Ecron being a part of your your toolkit, I guess. Because I mean, any game with traversal, it's fun, but eventually you're like, okay, I just want to get to the next area, and I think that's when the Ecron kind of opens that up. But enjoyable game, man. I don't know, like I feel like a lot of people probably heard it on my late edition on the last podcast, and I think it's underrated. I think with a couple DLCs, I think with some tweaks, I think it's got really potential. I could see this being a series. I could see this being like, you know, Ubi being like, okay, we're good on, you know, Far Cry or an Assassin's Creed this year, and we're gonna do another Avatar because they really, really nailed it in a lot of like specific ways.
I I would say that like I'd say I'm like mildly positive on it, but where
Yeah,
I think what would be really interesting is for it to kind of is for Massive to try to explore what they had originally tried to do with this game and like figure out why
like a
it wasn't
survival
working.
sim almost.
Yeah, like figure out why the more survival focused elements weren't really working, why they
Mm.
were kind of just like leached out of the game, and try to find the fun in those again.
You're playing this on PC, right?
Yeah, I play this on PC. I would never play a game like this on controller. I would hate it.
Uh, Gorgeous, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's absolutely gorgeous. But to get back to like the what I think they should do with this is I think they should go back to not like entirely back to the drawing board, but like figure out what they had originally wanted to make and try to find the fun version of that.
Yeah.
Because I think when they kind of awkwardly bolted in the Far Cry stuff, I don't know if it really works. But the simple act of like traversing that world, exploring that world, and being a Navi in that world and learning about it and learning to live with the land, I think is really fantastically well implemented. And it's a shame that it's been kind of dismissed by the broader gaming public and by like games criticism more broadly, seeing this is fairly shallow. And like this is not the deepest game
Yeah,
on
yeah.
the planet,
I said
but
it. I feel like Avatar and Ubi is like a combination. Like you can make fun of it. Don't worry. Like it's like a Nickelback joke. You know what I mean? Like
oh, this is
it's
better than
very
Nickelback.
safe.
Let's give it some credit.
Yeah. No. I'm just saying like it's internet safe to bash an Ubi Avatar game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's got that level of like culture cringe to it. But yeah, I do wish it got a little more cred
I
for
mean,
what it
even if you
does.
don't like this game, like I don't like this game very much, but I think there's so much interesting stuff it's doing that is worth talking about.
You know what it reminds me of most of if I had to pick like a game or a series? It reminds me of the first Batman game, kind of, where it's like you can see a lot of what is there. They had to take maybe some of the stuff that was like remember the first Batman game, you run around in that detective mode almost way too much, you know, and like just flying around the city as Batman felt cool, but then a lot of the other stuff, the combat stuff, kind of felt like I was doing QTEs the whole time. And then they kind of
You mean
like
flying around the asylum?
yeah. Sorry, the Arkham
Yeah.
Asylum. Yeah, and then they kind of figured some of that out later on in the city in the night game, right? I could see that if you give Avatar a little time to bake, you know,
I hope it
and
doesn't follow that pattern because Asylum is the best one.
yeah, but
Night was not good.
the pain of that Batman game was a lot of like just basically like okay, I'm in detective mode. I do the detective stuff. I move over here. I do this mode. You know what I mean? Like just very
Yeah,
kind of
they kind of fixed that in City, and
yeah.
then they really screwed it up again at Night because
Yeah,
you don't
Night,
use detective
give
mode
the
very
car.
much, but Night had no like the detective segments in Night are just awful.
Yeah, yeah.
Like legitimately terrible, and I don't know how Rocksteady thought that was a good way to go with that. Ironically, best Batman detective segments are in Batman Arkham Origins, which was not made by Rocksteady. It was made by WB Montreal, who went on to make Gotham Knights. All right, so that's what we've been playing. So before we get into our 2023 predictions, let's take a second to review the predictions we made last year. Sorry, before we get to making our 2024 predictions, let's review the predictions we made last year. So, the Kappa and I were on that episode, and we have a bunch of predictions, and Blasto is going to tell us how stupid we were for making these predictions. My first prediction was that Astral Chain 2 would be announced at Nintendo's E3 Direct for 2024 release, and that was very false, because Astral Chain 2 is still not being announced, and it may not even exist. So, yeah, that was dumb of me.
It is surprising. I felt like that was one of their like hits, you know. Haven't heard anything about it since, right?
Yeah, aside from that Lappy tease and a Bayonetta 3 trailer,
Oh yeah,
nothing.
yeah.
That's the only reason I think it exists. Otherwise, I thought they would have abandoned the IP. But Nintendo owns it. They don't even have to give it to Platinum. They could make the second one internally if they wanted to.
Well,
So your first predict. Sorry, go ahead.
do you think Platinum might be hard to work with? Like, there's been a couple
Yeah.
times now where
Yeah.
studios have just been kind of like, yeah, rather than deal with you guys, we just won't. You know, I remember, what was the Microsoft game, the Dragon game?
Scalebound.
Scalebound, yeah. They were just
Then
like,
there's that weird thing with Grand Blue Fantasy Relink
Yeah.
where they worked on it for a while and then they stopped working on it and then it went back entirely internally within Cygames. And now that game is finally coming out this year.
I just wondered
Yeah.
that, you know, because when you mentioned that, I wonder if just Platinum is just kind of a headache to work with.
I'm almost certain that's part of it. Your first prediction, Kappa, was that Nintendo would announce the Switch 2 in 2023.
I cannot believe I was wrong
That didn't
about
happen.
this one.
That is
Yeah.
false.
I mean, Blasto, am I an idiot here, or that's surprising, right?
I'm not surprised. I thought with Tears of the Kingdom coming out, there's no way they were going to announce new hardware. It was going to be the Switch's like big last hurrah year. I don't want to give away my prediction for this year, but I don't think it's going to come out this year.
Yeah, I mean,
I think
that's
it'll
a
get announced this year. I don't think it's going to come out this year.
pretty long lifespan for the Switch, and I think it's starting to show. You know, but yeah, I thought that was an easy one.
I gave you, I think, like 50-50 on it, but I was...
Well, because we know it
just skeptical in
exists.
general.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, we know it exists. It's just still sitting there on that back burner.
All right, my second prediction, Compulsion's new game will be revealed this year. That's true. South of Midnight was announced in June 2023. Kappa, your second prediction. We will see the end of live streaming being tied to video games, and it will increasingly be seen as something that celebrities just do. I don't think we can evaluate this.
Yeah, that's
unsure.
right there. Yeah, like at least the intent of what I was saying with it. I don't know. Like more and more when it comes to some of the the live streaming world, I can definitely feel that in some ways Twitch has grown but also shrunk, right? And I think the layoffs and I think some of the turmoil leaving Korea, stuff like that, is kind of more telling than you'd think, right? But
viewership did grow slightly in 2023, but yeah, big financial difficulties. The way carrier fees work in Korea mean they just cannot like economically operate there. They're really like scaling back. They've laid off hundreds of employees. It's kind of a mess these days.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, my third prediction. The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom and Marvel Spider-Man 2 will go toe-to-toe with each other for Game of the Year accolades from media outlets. That's false,
Kinda
because
right,
Baldur's
though.
Gate 3 dominated the Game of the Year conversation. Tears of the Kingdom, probably in a respectable but distant second, also close behind Alan Wake 2. Spider-Man 2 was in the conversation. I was right about that. It wasn't the conversation, but compared to those top three, Baldur's Gate 3, Tears of the Kingdom, and Alan Wake 2, it was pretty distant fourth place.
Yeah, it kind of felt like a token nod more than a like legit contender.
Yeah, like, oh, this game is really good, but three of the best games of all time also released this year.
It to be, basically, which I would say is probably fair of Tears of the Kingdom too, but it didn't really like surprise anyone with what it did.
Yeah, it was basically
Perfectly
Marvel Spider-Man
yeah.
1 minus the propaganda.
Yeah, which is really all I needed it to be. Also, Venom ruled. I had a great time with that game.
Yeah. Kappa, your third prediction. Studios are going to be more open to collaboration and become increasingly amenable to letting other studios license out their IP. This is mostly true.
Yeah, kind
A lot of collaborations in Fortnite, but also elsewhere that you were mentioning to me earlier.
Yeah, I think you've got a lot of these. I think it's hard to be where the kids are, if that makes sense these days. It's not as easy when when we were kids, you had to advertise during Saturday morning cartoons, right? And now it feels like the kids are a little bit everywhere. Roblox or on Call of Duty or on Fortnite or one of a trillion different places, And I think that you want to do that, but I think it's almost impossible to always be where the kids are. And so what you're instead doing is you're seeing SpongeBob showing up in Fall Guys, right? So I think that that's going to be kind of a trend that kind of continues because my kids bounce from game to game to game to game to game. They just do, right? And I think that Fortnite right now has all that juice behind it, and people are trying to say, well, how do we keep people into our game? I mean, the Near Automata, I said that wrong. They're licensed out, those androids to whoever will let them, basically. So, and I think it's smart. I think it keeps your game in the conversation, even when your game's not coming out with anything new, just because another game is. So I think I expect that to kind of continue. And I think this one we were talking about this week, you've got Warhammer in Call of Duty, which is cool. I mean, I think it's cool. So more of that, I guess, right? Probably down the horizon.
Yeah, I can see a lot more of this happening, and especially we're seeing it with non-video game franchises kind of crossing over into video games, and non-video game personalities, like weird things like Nicki Minaj as an operator in Call of Duty. Still don't know how to feel about that, but sure,
It's
people are
weird, right?
yeah, people like it. Who am I to complain? All right, and I made one final prediction, which was that Ubisoft will shutter one of its studios this year. That turned out to be true. They shut down their London studio in September 23. They also shut down a number of other offices, including their Benelux office in March. But those offices were marketing, distribution, administration, not development studios. So they don't count, but the London studio did shut down. Unfortunately, this is one prediction that I am not happy to have gotten.
We gotta
correct.
blame you for. How dare you, Merv? No,
Yeah, Yves Guillemot, he's on the phone with me.
Now we know who to blame for all these layoffs.
Yeah,
across
Yeah,
the
it's all my
industry.
fault.
It's all Merv's fault.
I've been telling Andrew Wilson to lay people off.
It does feel like a lot of these layoffs are more reactionary, I guess, to like it used to be. You'd have like the bad game, and then you'd maybe get your second chance, and then your studio would get rolled up into whatever. I'm wondering if that's just happened so much that there's so much overlapping, talent almost across the board, that instead of doing that, now you're just seeing, well, it's just easier to shut down the studio. Some of these I think have been folded in, but way less than normal.
Yeah,
Well, I
I
think
think
the
a lot
problem
of this-
now is that
Go
like
ahead.
if you're not owned by Microsoft or Sony, you're on the chopping block. you
Yeah,
know?
yeah. And it didn't used to be like that. It used to be like, okay, well, hey, you made a bomb, but you're still part of the EA publishing family, and we're gonna buy out most of your guys and send them to work out on 50 different games, basically. And the studios kind of doesn't exist, but when you go play, the new Battlefield, all of a sudden there's a Raven Software. Remember the Tony Hawk Raven guys? Like, they started showing up like in Transformers games, doing like back end work on it. But that's just kind of gone away. One of my favorite studios ever is Red Storm. Not just for being a North Carolina studio, but they were the ones making a lot of this classic Rainbow Six games. And now they're doing like tech for Division 2.
Hey, Kappa, are you from North Carolina?
Yeah,
Me too.
Monroe. See, we got a strong North Carolina core on the avocado. I think we always forget that, but yeah.
Raise up.
So, but I think when you used to see those studios fold into each other, and now they're doing different things. I think that was maybe the idea for when Sony bought Bungie, and now who knows what's going to happen. But I guess we'll see. Sometimes it's just is the talent worth folding in, or is it easier just to cut your losses? And that's been the hardest part this year, is seeing how many studios just completely disappear.
Yeah, and from what I can tell, it's going to continue this year. We're on pace right now so far to lose about 5 times as many jobs as were lost last year, which is nuts. Amount to roughly 50,000 jobs lost in the industry over the course of a year. I mean, at some point, exponential decay has to kick in, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely.
Like, at some point, this has to taper off. Otherwise, there's just not going to be any game developers left. But who knows? Maybe like dumb CEOs think that AI can make all their games or something. I don't know. If we want games full of six-fingered mutants, then I guess that's what we're gonna get.
None of the dialogue really works. Everybody's just kind of talking around things.
On a positive note, regarding all the turbulence in the industry right now, I did see a couple days ago that the founders of Rocksteady, who left, I guess, before this Suicide Squad thing started happening, but they have started a new studio, which apparently is going to be called 100 Star Games, and they aim to make AAA games with only 100 industry veterans and emerging talent. So they're intentionally keeping their team small, but also promising to deliver like big AAA experiences. And
that's really awesome.
I'll be interested to see how that pans out, and like if they can set a kind of a new business model for that size studio going forward.
Storm Giant's another one I've got my eye on. That's a lot of the former Blizzard, couple other RTS vets. They've got a RTS coming out that I'm interested in keeping an eye out. And one of the things they've basically been doing, and I've seen this before, this isn't something they came up with, but using Kickstarter almost as a pre-order mechanism. I think that's really smart. I think you do something like that and you end up not having to fund a lot of that weird development for who's going to make statues and who's going to make little weird steel boxes and stuff like that. Put it all through the Kickstarter or system so that backers can get it if they want it, but nobody else is forced to pay for development that maybe you wouldn't spend otherwise. So there's mechanisms out there for smart studios, I think, to kind of use for their advantage.
Yeah, it's like as how do I put this? As wary as I've been about industry consolidation, what's nice to see has been industry veterans kind of going off on their own and doing their own thing. Like, I'm going to make my own studio of Blackjack and Hookers, and like. It's nice that there's still that dynamism in the industry.
Yeah. There are a lot of like that, like we can do it DIY-ness still exists out there.
Double Fine is still a studio. I mean, they're owned by Microsoft now, but I can't wait to see what they do next.
Well, we know that they have, like, it's pretty much all been confirmed. They have, I don't know if you watched any of their Amnesia Fortnite documentaries.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was really good.
It's pretty much been confirmed that Kiln is going to be a thing that they release into the world at some point.
I would love that.
So, we'll see if it actually does make it out. It's heavily rumored. I think it was kind of leaked, but I don't know. We'll see. I'm excited to see what their other project is that they're working on. Because Kiln, I think, will be primarily multiplayer. So I'm eager to see what kind of single player stuff they've got going on.
Yeah, that's part of, I think that the game industry, more than almost anywhere else, has those types of stories where it's like, yeah, we just got 10 guys who all, kind of had the same vision for something and made a passion project, and it turned into a whole studio, that story still happens yearly in the video game world,
I mean, Tunic was like 3 people.
Stardew Valley was 1, right? I mean,
yeah, 1 person.
So, yeah, I think
he's
that's
still updating it for free.
I think, more like growing, I don't want to say growing up, but, in the late 90s, early aughts, it was more like if you were like a dreamer, you made indie films, right? And I've actually feel like I've seen less indie films lately, the true, like, Kevin Smith type indie films, not A24 stuff, then I have indie games where it feels like a lot of those types of creatives now are like, hey, I've got this vision. I can make it work with pixel art because it's so cool, and then go on with it that way. So, I it sounds bad, probably anybody, losing jobs and stuff. But I think there is still hope out there if you've got enough like-minded people and you have something that you really believe in. It's the type of industry where you can make a turnaround, basically.
Yeah, it's nice that there is a little bit of hope, even as things look pretty dire here in January. Mm-hmm. And hopefully these new studios, in a couple of years wow us with whatever they've got in the pipeline. All right, so it's time to make our predictions for 2024.
All right, I'm gonna get at least one of these this year.
So the way we do this, just for our listeners, is we each make 2 realistic predictions and 1 long shot. Blasto, let's hear one of your predictions.
So my first prediction actually ties back into Double Fine. I think they are going to announce something this year that will make me regret my choice to sell my Xbox and will hasten my urge to build a gaming PC.
It's the time to do it if you're gonna. I'm telling you. I mean, Game Pass is a bargain. But I love Double Fine's willingness to just go for broke on some of their stuff. You know, it might have not been the best game gameplay wise, but Brutal Legend is almost like
it owns.
Yeah, that's the only way I could even talk about it, right? It just, wow, this is cool. Ozzy Osbourne's selling me a car that shoots fire out of it, while Lita Ford is telling me to, lead a rock and roll revolution or whatever.
And I love that they got like Brian Posehn in there, who like is a big comedy nerd. Like I know he's a big metal guy, and like the fact that he's in it. It's like they went
too.
above
He's
and
the
beyond.
nicest dude.
I have too. I saw him at a show in Asheville, North Carolina, and he signed my Comedians of Comedy DVD.
He signed my Deadpool comics, so he's just a dude. Like he's just a giant, like literally and figuratively nerd, and he'll just talk to you about everything. There's not a lot of comedians who just hang out after the show, but he's one of them. So I always have a soft spot for him.
Yep, I've got a photo of me and him like throwing up the devil horns, and he signed my Comedians of Comedy DVD. You rule so hard. I was like, that's such a Brian Posehn signature.
And I'm 6'3". I'm not, I'm used to being, pretty tall, and that he made me feel like a little kid. So I was like, wow, you are that big.
Oh yeah, he dwarfed me.
Yeah, he's gigantic. So yeah, I would love for more Double Fine stuff. And I mean, even if they have to go to some of those, like, I don't want to say like tried and true wells, but they really have a feel for that style of adventure game where, I want to say whimsy or like, just something like that. I don't think they can, if they stay in that world, I think that's what they do best. So more Double Fine is always better. Honestly.
Give us another like not like a sequel to Broken Age, but like something in that vein where it's a throwback to that style of game. But now they don't have to kickstart it because they've got Microsoft money.
Yeah, got that Microsoft money behind you. And I mean, everybody loves Psychonauts too. So I mean, they're on a hot streak between that and then I think that Massive Chalice, that was pretty well received. So I mean, that's a Broken Age, and then so that's a pretty strong list of games to build on.
Microsoft really could use like a modern point and click adventure in its stable, which I think they're kind of missing right now. To be fair, I think PlayStation's also kind of missing that right now, and Nintendo just released another Code Realization, which is a remake of a bunch of really old 3DS point and click games. 3DS, 2D, DS? I don't even remember. I'll look it up for the link dump.
That's such a great platform for that genre. I don't think I ever played this, but I'm going to have to check it out.
The loss of the 3DS ecosystem, I think, was not necessarily the 3DS, but like that handheld system, like ecosystem was making so many games, like interesting, cool genres out of nothing, it seemed like, for years.
Meteos, man, is still... Like it came out early days for the original DS, designed by Sakurai of Smash Brothers fame, and it's one of the greatest puzzlers of all time. I think it's better than Tetris.
It's one of the reasons I was hoping that maybe like Steam Deck specific games would start to become more of a thing, rather than just like, hey, you can port your PC games to this. Really take advantage of the platform and do some cool stuff with it, because that was some of the best time in gaming, when you had like Microsoft doing shooters, you had Sony doing like fighting games, and then you had Nintendo doing like these like crazy fun party games on the 3DS and stuff. It just like always felt like you had something to play, and it was all over the place. So I wish Steam Deck would kind of take on that mantle.
All right, Kappa, let's get your first prediction.
All right. I think this is probably probably one of my safe ones. I think that Larian announces their follow-up to Baldur's Gate 3, and it is in the Divinity world. I think they have a lot of love for that world. I don't think the stories are close to done. And I think getting back to their own IP is kind of where they want to be, just in general. They treated Baldur's Gate obviously with a lot of love, and they that D&D world, I think was well suited for them. But I honestly think that their hearts are where Divinity is, and I wouldn't be surprised for them to go back to that world with some of the systems that they developed in Baldur's Gate. I think a lot of people are going to be upset by that. I think they're probably going to want them to pump out a Baldur's Gate 4, but I'm betting they're going to move to some DLC on Baldur's Gate 3. I know they were kind of at first no, but I can see them getting back to the Divinity world faster than most people are going to appreciate.
Yeah, like I think sometimes not we as in on this podcast, but gamers in general tend to forget how much went into Baldur's Gate 3, how much time, how many resources, how much personnel.
I mean, it's been in early access for years.
Yeah. And I
like,
which is why it was kind of surprising to me that it ended up in the Game of the Year conversation. It's like I would have figured most people interested in it would have already been like, I'm into it or I'm not.
Yeah, I agree. I think the thing about it too is like if you think about like the lead up time, how long games just literally take to make, right? You get Baldur's Gate 3, at least if you're that studio, it's a good game. It's going to have some, but you're not necessarily committing to, hey, our next 3 years are going to be making, sequels and development for this game. I think you can move a lot of those guys over to, a property you do own, start ramping up for more of what you can actually make without having to worry about licenses and sales figures and stuff like that.
100 P. That is exactly what everybody at that studio is doing right now.
Yeah, so I'm excited for more Larian, and it might be in the minority here, but I enjoy the Divinity world better. I just think they've got to finally balance that humor and seriousness to it, but I think that the Divinity world is really fun. So I want more of the same in that world. So that's going to be my guess. I think people are going to be a little bit, like maybe not angry, but a little bit torn because there's a lot of people I think who became fans of Larian from Baldur's Gate. I don't know if they're necessarily going back and playing the Divinities. And they might not be as familiar or as comfortable in that world setting, but it's a fantastic fantasy setting. And there's lots of creativity in that world too. So I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with that. It's just going to be interesting to see what people think about it.
Okay, so my first prediction is, I think a prediction that a lot of other people have. So that's why I'm saying it's safe and realistic. The new Nintendo console is going to be a straightforward, backwards compatible successor to the Switch with very few additional gimmicks.
God, every single person in the world would love that if that was the case.
I hope they don't fuck it up, man.
Yeah.
I really do. Just like after seeing what they did with the Wii U, with the runaway success of the Wii U, like we're right back where we were in 2012.
It's hard when you take the wrong lessons from the right product. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I want to be clear. I don't think they're going to fix a lot of the problems with the Switch. I don't think they're going... Like, okay, here's the problem I think they'll fix.
Hall effect joysticks. That's all.
Hall effect joysticks. That's definitely going to happen. There have been lots of rumors and I think leaks about it as well. That's definitely going to happen. I think they will fix the online a little bit, but not enough to make people truly happy with it.
If they don't give us dedicated servers and they release Splatoon 4, I'm not buying it.
Yeah, that's a frustration for me just on Nintendo games in general. Whenever there's any kind of multiplayer, it just always feels like you're fighting somebody else's lag, not your own, but somebody else's, and usually it's the person I'm assuming who's hosting.
That's why the competitive Smash world is like still playing, Melee and Brawl. Because
the competitive Smash world is still playing Melee because the competitive Smash world is full of stunted children, a lot of whom. Okay, I'm not going to finish that thought. But you know where I'm going with it.
That's fair, but I will say that like you can't really competitively play Smash online because their online is dog shit.
Yeah.
Like,
it is. But it doesn't explain why the in-person tournaments still are so wedded to Melee.
True.
I think a
that
lot
GameCube controller, man.
Yeah.
There's
A
no
lot
beat.
of Nintendo fans are just at that point right now where you can't be frustrated by multiplayer and online this many years in a row with no real improvements, you know?
Speaking of GameCube, if they don't have like a GameCube NSO on their next, like I will not subscribe to Nintendo Switch Online if there's not a GameCube section on the next. Like I get that the Switch,
I don't
like
think they're gonna do. I don't think they're gonna do it, man.
there's so much nostalgia for that
How far
console
back-
right now.
How far back did the last one go?
In 64 is
Oh,
where
okay.
where it cut off.
Yeah,
And,
I mean, how important is, I think Nintendo always, I'm not, I don't want to say the hater, but I'm probably the least pro Nintendo person around here. But I do think that you've got to be able to keep up graphically with, I mean, at least that like low end PC experience at this point,
I want to play Zelda.
I don't think this is going to be a graphical powerhouse by any means. I think
Doesn't have to be 4K.
Here's what I think.
60.
I think
just
it'll-
want 4K.
I don't think it'll even be 4K. I think it'll be. I think the games will look really good at launch. I think we're going to get some modern AAA games on it at launch. But anyone who's expecting this to like play Alan Wake 2 at 4K 60 FPS is out to launch.
I don't think it's going to do 4K 60. It's got to do 4K. Like if it can't do 4K docked,
if it's
What are we
1080 and
Does it have-
30, I think that's a disaster. I mean, I don't think
I mean, 1080 60, I don't care, but that's because I don't have a 4K TV.
Yeah.
I'm holding on to my old 1080p dumb TV because I freaking hate modern smart TVs so much.
I was in the
I've
same
got a
boat
dumb
as you
one
for a
too that
long
I keep-
time.
Yeah.
I do not give a rat's ass
What
about
in my
4K.
bedroom
I'm
is
sorry.
I bought a smart TV and never connected it to the internet. I never turned on
That's
the
one way to
Google
do it.
TV shit. It's like I have my Apple TV for all that stuff. I've never once like seen the apps or installed a software update. It may as well be a dumb TV.
Yeah, but
Yeah, but like even if you depending on the TV you got, like my parents got this, I think it's a Samsung or an LG. It's such garbage. Like
Yeah.
Samsung,
That's
they're
why I
dog
went.
shit now.
That's why I went with Sony is because they use like Google TV and like if you just don't turn that on or connect it to the internet, it's just a TV.
oh yeah, a Samsung Smart TV tries to do fun smart features like changing the resolution on your TV without telling you.
Yeah.
Cropping the image without telling you.
I had a Samsung I couldn't control the volume on because it had filled itself with apps, right? And all the apps were apps you couldn't delete because like Samsung had made some corporate deal with some, Hulu or something.
That's why we can all afford to buy those TVs. By
Yeah.
the way,
Yeah, that's why they're $200.
I mean, 'cause, like a 4K monitor, like a 27-inch, is like $500-600, but you can get like a 55 or 65-inch 4K TV for much less than that if you're not going for like 120 hertz and
See,
eARC and stuff like that. But
for Switch, I would say that 1080, 60 FPS, and I think HDR. I think if you have that, I think adequate. I think anything lower than that, if you come out with a console in 2024 that's 1080 and 30 FPS, I think you get creamed. I mean, maybe, but
1080 handheld 4K docked is like they need a more powerful dock.
Yeah.
I think that's what needs to be the selling feature for me.
I
with
care
this
way
Switch.
more about frame rate than I do about reaching 4K.
well, consistent frame rate. That would be my thing. Like if you're selling,
Nintendo's been pretty good at consistent
Yeah.
frame rate. Like, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 aside, they've been pretty good at that.
Everything
Yeah.
that's going on in Tears of the Kingdom, like that is a marvel of modern.
Oh, that
engineering.
thing's a technical marvel.
Like,
Like,
the fact that
I have
like,
no word.
Fuse and like just all those abilities actually work without just the game falling apart is incredible to me every time I play it.
Oh, their first party stuff is going to look gorgeous. I have no doubt about that. Like I said, I wouldn't expect a powerhouse. I expect it'll be reasonably powerful and run stuff decently well. But yeah, this is going to be a pretty standard successor. I don't think there will be a lot of gimmicks. It's just going to be pretty much what people want. And for the people who don't already like the Switch, I don't think this is going to be convincing for them to like hop
there
on
people
board
that don't
and
like the
really
Switch?
evangelize Switch 2. I mean, there are lots of people who don't like the Switch, right? They've underpowered. They want something that's either fully home dedicated or fully handheld.
I feel like they still own one though. Like,
that probably put me in that category. I own a Switch, I just don't use it. I've found it hard to find a place for it for literally anything other than the first party games I want to play for Nintendo. I just don't use it for anything else, even as like a media center, which is frustrating because I've got an old Xbox One that literally just powers my downstairs TV.
It's so weird to me that Hulu and YouTube are the only two video apps that ever came out for that.
Yeah,
it has to do with essentially the Switch doesn't have like okay, so these things, my understanding is that they're like browser based, the apps previously. Like, so the Wii U had like an internal web browser. The Switch technically has a sort of internal web browser, but it's all like locked down and inaccessible. So like Netflix refused to develop a dedicated app for the Switch, which they would have to do like ground up, and that's why there's no Netflix app on Switch. And probably similarly for other video services, YouTube, for whatever reason, thought it was worth to develop a dedicated app for Switch, so they did.
Yeah,
that's what it boils down to, is my understanding.
Like, if I want to watch Tubi or Shudder or whatever, I know there's going to be an app on Xbox. You know what I mean? Even if it's an old ass Xbox One, there'll be an app for it. But I've never had that feeling with Switch where I always feel like, well, this is not going to have any of the stuff I want it to do, so it doesn't earn like its spot on the entertainment center. You know what I mean?
Weirdly enough, Switch actually has apps for Crunchyroll.
Yep.
And
that's not weird at all, Merve.
Also, Cord Gadget, that's the craziest thing to me that's on Switch. Is like a music making app that's like on iPad and Mac and I think PC as well.
Well, to your boy Kappa, the reason that Crunchyroll is weird is because Sony owns Crunchyroll.
Oh yeah. I just meant from the perspective of the fan base.
Yeah, I would say like they also have Twitch, like a pretty good Twitch app on on Switch.
That's true. I'm bagging on Switch apps, but I think it's more just their environment. Like I think they want to be a place where everything on there is a little more maybe family friendly and approved and feels like it belongs on Switch, where a lot of other companies are like, whatever, it's your app, just get it on there. As long as it runs, we don't care. So
yeah, I don't think that's it. It really is the difficulty developing a Switch app when they won't give developers browser accessibility.
Yeah,
that's my understanding. But like,
I guess that is true because so many things on the Xbox literally just open a browser when you click on things. So.
Like even the apps that don't open the browser, they're using essentially like the browser rendering engine, if you will, to render the app, which I don't think Nintendo gives developers access to. It's something a little bit more complicated than that. I'll look it up. I read about this somewhere. I'll put it in the link dump.
It's good link dump.
Also, just revealed today that they're not releasing, or not today, but this week, not releasing an app for Apple's new Vision Pro headset.
This is becoming more of a thing with Apple in general. It seems like a lot of people are just not willing to play with them anymore, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think they've pissed off quite a few developers.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, though, is like Netflix, it came out in court, had a sweetheart deal with Apple where they only ever paid 15%.
And I think that revelation has kind of, I think Epic was the bad guy at first in this whole thing, but I think a lot of people's kind of eyes have opened a little bit and said, oh, wow, this is kind of weird that some of these deals are like this.
I mean, I think Epic still are dickbags in that scenario.
Mm-hmm.
Like the fact that they like intentionally broke the rules of both stores so that they could get like a very public court case going just really rubbed me the wrong way. Like, and Tim Sweeney in general is just kind of
like
an ass.
weaponizing kids to do it as well.
Yeah, that I think was where it went beyond the pale. Like, if a company wants to sue another company, what do I care? Rich people sue rich people all day long. But like the whole like weaponizing that and like the whole Apple is keeping you away from Fortnite propaganda. Oh, come on.
Also, like. I mean, Epic are the bad guys here. Like, I tried to fire up Fortnite on my Mac recently, and you can still play it in the Epic launcher for Mac, but it's like the version that was released when they sued Apple, and you can only play with other Mac users that are on that version.
Yeah, that's a really weird
And
specific requirement.
So much
And
for
like
the
that's
company
the
that
Epic, that's the
accidentally
Epic
enabled
launcher. They're not
crossplay.
paying Apple dick for that. So they're just intentionally punishing Mac users for like a corporate issue that they have with Apple, and that rubs me so the wrong way. Like I would play your fucking game and buy your skins even on my
Yeah.
Mac if you would just let me, even though I don't appreciate like who you are as a company. You're just like you're leaving money on the table. It's a not a lot compared to what they bring in, but it's annoying. Not a fan.
So, speaking of things that aren't annoying,
Mhm.
Blasto, what's your second prediction?
Uh, well,
Great segue, by the way.
Yeah,
Everyone
perfect.
applaud me.
and it actually is great because my second prediction was that I think more AAA games will come to the Mac slash iPhone slash iPad now that they've made it dead simple for developers to port with the latest versions of their software. And Capcom is kind of leading that charge with the Resident Evil releases. Death Stranding is coming soon. I think if those sell well, we'll see finally a new golden era of gaming on the Mac.
How are these ports working, by the way? Because Apple moved away from
Boot
the
camp?
Intel architecture, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, they have their own thing going, but they've made it dead simple to go from what is it, Vulkan on PC
Oh, okay.
to Metal, which is their graphics architecture. And
That's interesting. Because a lot of Windows-based games still use DirectX. Some will use Vulkan. Like I think some of id Software stuff uses Vulkan, which is ironic because now they're owned by Microsoft. But yeah,
but with the latest
Interesting.
version of Mac OS, like you can like without a developer needing to do anything, I could download the Windows version of Steam and install like Diablo 4 and have it run just fine, even though that's not a game that's been released for Mac. So like if developers put a minimal amount of effort into it, they can sell their games on the Mac, and it's still not, as big of a marketplace for them as others. But I think the ease of it and just like being able to scrape in a little extra money for your studio with very little effort put into it is going to be appealing enough to where like we finally see this happen.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
all right, Kappa, what's your second prediction?
All right, this one this one might be on the risky side. You ready? I don't think one of those Marvel games that has been announced sees the light of day in 2024.
I think
I
that's
actually
fair.
agree. Yeah, I don't think Wolverine's coming out this year.
I don't think Blade is.
I think we'll get one that's not been announced. I think we'll get like a
like a Guardians of the Galaxy surprise drop or something.
or like a. I think that Insomniac will probably do what they did with Miles Morales, and we'll get like a little Venom mini game.
Oh, I can see that. Yeah.
Because
I mean,
it's already
based on the
in base
Insomniac
game.
leaks, that's not happening.
So we've got Blade. I don't think that's coming out. Wolverine. I don't think that's coming out. EA's got an Iron Man game. I haven't heard shit about that since.
I think that's the only one that could cause a threat to this prediction.
Got a
I
Black
think
Panther
Marvel's
game.
scaling back in general. I think they've lost so much money and public goodwill from the kind of mixed reaction to the Disney Plus shows
Yeah.
that they're dialing back and like kind of hitting the reset button.
I just it felt like in 2022 that, or maybe 2021, they were like, 2024 is going to be the year of the Marvel game. It was like they blitzed us, and like I think the only thing I can think of is Blade, and that's recent because that came out at the 2023 Game Awards. But I haven't heard anything about the Wolverine game, the Iron Man, or the Black Panther game in it seems like 2 years.
Oh, there are two Black Panther games.
Oh,
There's
that's
one
right.
like
Yeah,
open
there's
world
one,
T'Challa game, and there's one that's like, I think a World War II era Captain America Black Panther.
They could
Yeah, like
surprise
alternate
us
reality.
with
Black Panther
Wolverine
team
because it's been in development for so long that they could like preview that in a couple of months and drop it by the end of the year.
Maybe that's a quick turnaround from Spider-Man, and I think you got to do something. I'm probably in the minority here, but I think they've got to mix up that combat a little bit. If it's just Spider-Man combat Wolverine, I think a lot of people are not going to be super happy.
Oh, it's gonna be way more violent.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know, but
I think Spider-Man should kill more people.
just drop them off of buildings with webs. I don't think any of them come out. That's
made the
my
government cry.
risky one. But I just remember like it might have been 2021 or 22. I can't remember, but it was like the year of Marvel. It was like it was gonna all hit. All these games were gonna be, and like not a one of them. I feel like has been making waves since.
I just want a Guardians of the Galaxy 2
It's a
made
fun
by the
game,
same
you know?
dev team.
That was
But I
great.
think Barry DeMarle left Eidos. I don't know where she works now. So unfortunately, it's not going to be written by her.
Wasn't one of the Marvel games by Amy Hennig too?
Maybe
I'm
I have
pretty.
no
It
idea
might
where-
be that alternate history one, honestly.
Oh yeah, Amy Hennig is working, I believe, on the Black Panther, Captain America, World War II era.
Yeah. That sounded cool, and then I haven't heard shit about it since. It's very weird. Yeah, I don't know. But that's going to be my prediction. It is the anti-year of Marvel this year.
All right. Speaking of more depressing news, my second realistic prediction is that there will be more industry layoffs this year than there were last year. I think it's a pretty safe bet. We're already on pace to have about 5 times as many, and we're already, I think, a third of the way to the number of layoffs we had last year.
So blame her. No, I can see it, man. It's tough. I think a lot of times the economy in a whole is to blame for this kind of stuff, right? But I do think whenever you have high inflation and you have high interest rates and stuff like that, you don't get as many people willing to take chances on weird games that may or may not hit. You know what I mean? And I think that's what you rely on for a lot of these types of games. I just don't think that money's going to be there this year. So
I feel like unfortunately all these layoffs are going to contribute to like a Hollywoodification of the industry too, where they'll only put money into sequels and reboots because
I could see
those
that.
are guaranteed money makers.
I think this is actually a really good point, because I think we were, in the past few years, headed towards kind of a filling back in of the AA market. And I worry that it's going to hollow out, especially given recent comments by Square Enix, who says they're going to they're going to like concentrate their energies on their biggest franchises. So we're not going to get those Diofields and Harvestellas anymore.
Maybe even your
We're gonna
Octopath
get-
Travelers. Like,
Yeah, even games like that.
And then you've
like
got-
Live Alive.
You've got Ubi
Or-
going towards that. Hey, games is as a service, not necessarily, but like we're selling a Game Pass or a U Plus or something. Gamers need to get comfortable with not owning their games, which I think that quote was taken a little out of context. If you realize how he was describing it, which was how does the future of games work when everything is based on a service, which is like now I don't own movies, I own Netflix, right? But I think what he's saying is gamers are not there yet, but when that happens, that's when you start seeing a lot of these services kind of become the standard. I think what he was talking about a little bit more was why nobody's buying Uplay Plus or whatever the hell it's called. But it's happening. I mean, Game Pass changed the way I buy games completely, and a real big reason for that is AA games. We've talked about the AA boom, and I can take a chance on a game on Game Pass that I don't know if I would for $30 when $30 buys a hell of a lot of milk right now,
Yeah, the worry is that that's the part of the market that's going to hollow out, and maybe it can only be kept aloft by subscription services.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like a raw deal for someone who likes.
Let me ask: when you're looking at subscription services, are you looking at for like I guess it'd be like the depth versus the breadth, right? Are you looking for like, hey, this has like system seller first platforms, or are you looking at this has a shitload of games I've kind of wanted to play but never bought? Because for me, it's the latter.
I'm not really looking at game subscription services, to be honest.
But like,
So
for me, it's the latter.
Yeah.
But I will say that the reason I sold my Xbox primarily is because I was like, man, I'm not interested in anything on here that isn't on Game Pass.
Right.
And
but like,
I was like, I'm paying $18 a month to own this console, and I don't even play it most months.
So like if I tried to sell you on Game Pass right now, I'd talk to you about stuff like Pentiment, right? Pow
Which is
World,
great.
you know, like weird like games. I played the shit out of Against the Storm all last month on Game Pass. That's a game that like I would have never taken a chance on if I had to buy it, right? But I fucking love that game. That game is so addictive. Steam World Build. I mean, like all those little weird niche AA games, I think, you know, are what is going to sell services. Maybe not the Halo 5s, you know, maybe the
Yeah.
Dungeons 4 and the City Skylines instead.
Well, and that's why I'm happy with PlayStation Plus is because like, they don't do the day and date thing with their big releases.
Right.
You're not getting that, but you do get all those AA games. And it's
So-
stuff that like, oh, I've heard this is really cool, but I would not have bought it.
'Cause-
Stray.
You really get a lot of
Stray's
double
a
games
great
with
example.
PlayStation Plus. I mean, I guess I haven't followed PlayStation Plus since they first launched.
They're way different now, yeah.
Yeah, because when they first launched,
It was like the
it was
one game
dire.
a month. Yeah, yeah.
It was a dire lineup.
Now you get
and
so much, and they very rarely take stuff
it's
away.
good that they've ramped it up.
Like I could see a future
It's
for
on
something
par with Game Pass, I think.
like-
oh, really?
like
Because when it started, I was like, this is worse than NSO. So they must have really, really beefed it up.
I could see something like EA. You know how EA Access or whatever the hell it's called now. I could see that being something where like it's $5 if you want to play last year's Madden, last year's FIFA, you know, whatever. Like basically 1-year-old games on it, because that's what we used to pay for the used version of Madden at GameStop, right? It doesn't sound crazy to me if there was some kind of service like that. But you know, as much as we've assumed it, you don't own your games on Steam either, right? And PC gamers have been using Steam now for a generation, right? If I told my kid, "Hey, go buy a game right now, but you can't buy it on Steam," he'd look at me like I was insane. You know what I mean? Like, and you don't own shit on Steam. All it takes is a VAC ban, you know, and see ya, right?
Well, further example of that is like I've got a bunch of stuff I bought that when I bought it, it ran on the Mac just fine, but they never updated their stuff to run 64-bit, and eventually Mac OS stopped supporting 32-bit applications. So I can't play Half-Life or Left 4 Dead or Portal or any of these Valve games I bought that they never updated. And those are first-party things that are on the Steam platform,
I will say, like, on the subject of ownership on Steam versus a subscription service, there's a sense, at least with Steam games, that the games will be available not necessarily in perpetuity, but for a really long time. Mm-hmm. Even games that have been delisted are still available to people who purchase them to download.
But that's
whereas
all
with
on the
subscription
goodwill, you know.
That is on the goodwill of Valve, right? Like, for instance, Sony has not earned that goodwill because they take away your ability to watch videos you bought on PlayStation
Even
Store,
stuff like that
which is
PT
insane to
debacle.
me.
Well, they ended up backing out of that.
That's
you can
good,
still
but
download them.
it never should have been suggested in the first place. Right?
But like,
it never should have been a possibility.
remember when they went into people's PlayStations and deleted PT forcibly off of the hard
Yep.
drive? That was fucking weird, man.
I will say, like, if you want people to get all in on digital content, and I personally am, but you need to reassure them that it's going to be there for a reasonable amount of time. I started buying all my movies and TV shows on what's now Apple TV, but what was then iTunes, like more than 10 years ago. And I've never once run into anything I bought that they took away because they lost the rights. But it does happen. I got calls about it when I worked for Apple support. And like if you change regions, if you move to another country where they don't own the rights to that thing, like all of a sudden the thing you bought can't be watched.
Yeah, I lost something.
Double-edged sword.
I lost. I had a lifetime subscription to Nexus Mods. Right, I was one of like the first like 5 people who like got a lifetime membership for Nexus Mods. Right, they had a breach, put everybody on a 2-factor authenticator, lost my phone, and now I don't have my lifetime pass to Nexus mods. You know how bad that hurts. You know what I mean? Like, it's just there's so many ways to lose digital things these days.
That
That
almost happened to me with Epic with my Fortnite account.
yeah, yeah.
I changed my email and like forgot that they have two-factor set up through email, and like that email doesn't exist anymore.
It's
And
weird. Yeah.
I went through the trouble to like send them purchase receipts and stuff that like proved that I was the owner of the account, which is what they asked me to do when I was trying to do account recovery. And they came back and were like, "I'm sorry, we can't verify your account." I'm like,
Yeah.
"What do you fucking mean, man? I've sent you email receipts from like the last 10 years."
Or like some of these accounts I've had have been like 10 years old, and they're like, "Tell us the credit card number you open the account with," and I'm like, "I've got no fucking clue." You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
dude, that's expired 3 times since then. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. All right, Blasto, what's your long shot prediction?
So this ties back to the Switch 2, and I hinted at this earlier, but I believe that the Switch 2 will be announced this year, but will not be released until spring 2025. They're going to give us some banger titles to close out this final year with, and Metroid Prime 4 will be a launch title in spring 2025,
we gotta
so
talk
that
about that one.
my counter pick in our Fantasy Critic League will push me over the line to claim first place, redeeming my poor placement last year.
Okay, so the long shot part of this is that you'll win Fantasy Critic, even though I kicked your ass last year.
Yeah, that's basically it.
Okay, totally agree then. Kappa, what's your long shot?
All right, you ready for this? Game Pass
Yeah.
on Switch.
And
I'm
PlayStation.
Yeah, I'm not 100% on the PlayStation one yet. I think it's coming to Switch. I think it's going to be curated. I don't think it's going to be one for one. Like,
Yeah.
I think they're
They're
probably
still
going to have.
hold back like they're bangers. But
No,
think
I actually don't even think that. I think it's going to be more like, hey, this would run like shit on a Switch, and we can't make people, make it work. I gotta imagine that it's been in the works for a while. There's a lot of. How could you not say Pentiment shouldn't be on Switch or like games like that? You know what I mean? There's plenty of Microsoft-ready games that would go right over there.
they may not even give us Game
like,
Pass,
I
but
don't-
just sell them individually.
Some kind of
I don't necessarily think
storefront.
Game Pass is coming.
Yeah.
But I would not be shocked at all to see Pentiment, Hi-Fi Rush, and Psychonauts 2 make their way over to Switch.
Rumors
Yeah.
have already been ramping up that Hi-Fi Rush and Sea of Thieves are coming to Switch. Like
I
that's
just
been a
see
thing.
that-
Like in the
I can
last
see
week or
that.
two.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see the relationship between Microsoft and Switch has been something worth watching. I mean, it's you know what I mean. It kind of feels like it's been rumors and shadows and this and that, and hey, we'll loan you this character for this game type stuff, and then it's slowly starting to kind of feel like, hey, we've got a catalog of games you guys can use, and we've got a storefront that you guys can use. I mean, just if Nintendo got cozy enough with Microsoft, just switching to Azure for their servers, which is what Sony did as well, could be groundbreaking for them.
Yeah.
Do we actually
There's almost
know?
no reason I mean, if Sony did that, why wouldn't you as well?
Wait, do we actually know what servers Nintendo uses?
It's all peer to peer. They don't.
Yeah, I don't
have
think there
dedicated
are servers. If there are, I mean, maybe for like.
I mean, they must have. I
downloading
mean, servers
distro
like
servers, yeah, but
their distro servers. Do we know who's providing them?
I don't. I mean, it could be
Yeah.
Microsoft, but I mean, how much of a honey sweetheart deal could you come up with if you were Microsoft? Hey, you get on Azure, we'll give you the same deal basically as Sony, and then you just let us put some of our games on your platform. That just makes your platform look better rather than worse.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends. I don't know if that would make them run afoul of antitrust.
I think Microsoft is really pushing for this because they've like Xbox Series consoles are not moving like
Yeah.
PlayStations and Switches are, and this is the second generation in a row where that's happened to them. And so, like, if they want, like, their whole business model now is that Game Pass subscription, and they need to get it on as many devices as they can.
Yeah. Well, remember,
I could see it as a big push for the East Asian audience, particularly Japan, where Xbox has almost an outsized influence in the development sphere compared to like the
user
consumer
base.
sphere.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Nobody
like there are
buys
lots
Xbox
of,
in Japan.
Yeah.
Like,
which is really strange. I mean, lots more people bought an Xbox Series console than an Xbox One. Like nobody bought an Xbox One in Japan. Xbox Series is not doing anywhere near as well as the 360. and it's lagging behind a distant third place, but at least it's not like completely out of the market. It's not like an insane thing to have an Xbox Series console over there. But compared to how much developers talk about the Xbox versus consumers talk about the Xbox in Japan, it's like night and day.
I think to that point too, I think you've got a built-in install base on both sides of this, right? And I know the antitrust thing is concerning, but remember, one of the ways they got around the antitrust thing was saying, we'll just stick this on a third party with Call of Duty. And that's basically where I think Ubi is the distributor, right?
Well, even like back in the
for
day,
Call of Duty on cloud, yeah.
Even back in the day when Microsoft was under fire for Internet Explorer with regulators, they like invested a bunch of money into Apple and were like, see, we're helping our competitors. So I could very much see them doing the same thing with Nintendo and even Sony, to like try to appease regulators who let this deal go through.
Yeah, I'd be. That's where I think it's going. I think, I think Microsoft was ahead of the ball when they started to say, hey, no more discs, right? We're going to always online. People weren't ready for that, right? Maybe a little bit early, and they probably announced it like assholes, right? But it ended up being right, and I think consoles are on their way out. I don't think my kids will be my age and own a console. I think it's just going to be like a service you subscribe to or something built into your TV.
Your browser.
Yeah. I mean, just stream it from, some source, and you're just sitting there playing it, and it's invisible to you. You don't know that, but hey, I could see what makes it so that you have to have an Xbox built into a console rather than building into a TV when it's really just a streaming app at that point, right? You don't need, processors and things like that just to stream it. You just need a good internet connection. Yeah, I do think that there's a future that looks really weird and different for what consoles are. I think Microsoft has a gigantic leap above a lot of them, and I think they'd be willing to pull Nintendo along with them. I feel like if Nintendo signs up for the deal, but there's got to be kind of a give and take. But I think the real first step would be some type of storefront or Game Pass on Switch, and I think this is the year that they finally stop talking about it and actually do it.
I will say on the subject of like streaming, I think the only thing you need is a good internet connection is doing a lot of heavy lifting because good internet
the world
is still
doesn't have that.
Yeah, that's true.
not available.
It's getting better. I mean, I live in the middle of nowhere, North Carolina, and I've got gigabit. It's there.
And I'm in a bumfuck ass town in Oklahoma, and same. I'm with gigabit fiber right now. So
some of the fastest. Yeah,
I'm lucky. I live in a city in Canada, a major city, so I have good internet. But if I were to go out to like Saskatchewan's a bad example because of Sasktel. But if I were to go out to like I don't know rural Alberta, I'd expect gigabit internet out there. I don't think that's happening.
Yeah, it's getting to that place where that's not the driver anymore. You know what I mean? If there's enough of your user base that can just say, I've got great internet, you make the streaming for them, and then you still sell like your equivalent of the Xbox One or the Xbox Series S to the people who, still need that,
or
streaming.
like how Netflix just stopped renting out DVDs last year.
Yeah, and I mean,
I do worry about this like kind of like it almost creates this cultural separation that like exacerbates the cultural separation between like rural areas with poor access to internet and urban areas with good access to internet. Like what happens when we can't even experience the same culture?
Yeah,
is division between those two groups of people.
Well, I think the thing though too, Merv, to remember is, I mean, as you do create, that like the haves and the haves not of internet, it also does maybe put some more juice to the discussion of, is internet a utility? The more and more necessary.
Oh, it is a utility. We just pretend it isn't.
Yeah, exactly.
But we don't have to go down that road.
The more you rely on it, the less that pretending starts to become a thing. So, I mean, yeah, it's, once you start regulating like a utility.
I think it's a bit of the tail wagging the dog here.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think.
I mean, the U.S. did as much as I'm hesitant to credit Biden for anything, that Infrastructure Act, like they put a lot of money into upgrading people's internet across this country. And
he literally just gave a gigantic speech in Raleigh about how by 2027, high-speed internet will be all over North Carolina. No, for those not listening, North Carolina's a pretty big state. It's like size-wise, and it's mountains and it's beaches. It's a little bit of everything. So that's kind of a big deal if he can make that level of promise to give us all high-speed internet across this area. But I think the future is going to be internet as a utility, and once you've got that, consoles die. Once you've got well-regulated internet. And I can guarantee everybody's going to be getting at least 100 up and down. Forget it. You're going to be able to stream whatever you want at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I want that day to come. I just fear, unfortunately, it's pretty far away. But I do think that day will come in my lifetime.
Yeah.
I just think... I don't know if I'll be too arthritic to play a video game at that age.
As long as Donald Trump doesn't become the 47th and final president of the United States this year.
Well, when Robo Trump takes his arm cannon and blasts the nursing home in which I'm currently living, then I can worry about that. But Robo Trump is so far away. Speaking of things that are also very far away, here's my long shot prediction.
All right.
And I'm just gonna go straight into the weeds on this one because I'm a sicko for this kind of stuff. I think MediaVision is going to put out both the new Digimon Story game and Valkyria Chronicles 5 this year. Ooh. And one of the two will be the big launch RPG for the new Nintendo console.
Is it exclusive or is it...
Not exclusive. Okay. Kind of like how Yakuza Like a Dragon was the big launch RPG for the Xbox Series consoles. I think it's going to be similar to that. So here's my evidence. And I'm taking out my red string Pepe Sylvia board right now. So MediaVision put out at least one game a year every year from 2005 to 2018. Previously, the longest they went without putting out a game was 3 years. They have not released anything since 2018.
Wow.
We know a new Digimon story is being worked on.
6 years?
Yeah. This is a studio that used to put out a game a year, sometimes two.
Oof, man.
Yeah. Which means... we don't know for sure they haven't confirmed that MediaVision is working on Digimon Story, but we know that a new Digimon Story is being worked on. And it's a pretty safe bet that a new Valkyria Chronicles is being worked on. What studio makes Digimon Story and Valkyria Chronicles? MediaVision, right? There's gotta be, you don't spend 6 years cooking if you're not cooking with gas, right? So...
just any company that makes a product, if it stopped making a product for 6 years, you'd be like, how do you still exist? No?
You turn to Rocksteady, I guess. I mean, I hope this looks better than Kill the Justice League.
Oh my god, man.
But
I almost can't wait
I
for
think
that to come
this
out.
is the year. We're getting the new Digimon Story this year. I know I predicted this last year and the year before. And I know, I've got my bag of copium here, and my nose is deep in the bag. I'm inhaling those copium fumes, and it feels oh so good. But it's going to be this year.
Now,
Guarantee
I want to say, famously, I'm not big on a lot of anime games, and I think Valkyria Chronicles in that kind of weird spot, right? I love that game.
I don't care about Valkyria Chronicles. I just think it's getting made.
I loved it. I thought 4 was one of the most fun things I've ever played, and I didn't even know that style of game almost existed. And then I went back and I ran the series. Well, what was available in the series? I think it was at the time, I think I could play maybe. I think it was actually 1 and 3, but 3 was called 2 or something. There's some, you know what I mean? One of those weird things.
I think we looked it up last time. I think 3 was the one that never made it west.
Yeah, so I probably played 1 and 2 then. But I really enjoyed that series. And it's kind of weird and dark. And I think it might be kind of funny to almost set it a little more modern times rather than World War II. Well, not World War II, but World War II. It'd be kind of a little I don't know, a Vietnam feel where people are getting drafted for their, little weird war or something and a little more protest against it. But yeah, I loved Valkyria Chronicles, and I can't believe that that's been all they've done for the past 6 years, basically.
Yeah, basically nothing since Valkyria Chronicles 4 and Digimon Story Hacker's memory.
And last time this came out, like, that sold pretty well in the West. I remember us talking about that. Like, it was pretty solid, and that was 2018. So yeah, just nothing since, huh?
Yeah, I'm just looking at this on Wikipedia right now. They sold over 1 million copies of Valkyria
That's
Chronicles
fucking
4
good
worldwide.
for I mean,
For Valkyria Chronicles,
you don't get
for a
more-
game
you
whose
don't get much
third
more
for a
niche
series'
than
third entry skipped a release outside Japan.
romance
That's insane.
World War II tactics anime
Yeah.
game to sell that many. That's a pretty big fucking deal, and you sat on it, huh? All
Yeah.
right.
So I'm guessing Mediavision probably and Sega, who will be publishing this, probably think that Valkyria Chronicles could be big. Maybe they're actually cooking on like a 3 remaster too. Who knows? Then that will come west. But yeah, my long shot is Mediavision's going to put out 2 games this year.
Oh,
All right, we are going to take a short break, and when we come back, we will do our delay prediction game and also talk about the games and hardware we're anticipating. Stay tuned. Hello, and welcome back to the Avocado Gamescast, the only podcast that you will listen to today, tomorrow, and forever after. So, every year, and by every year I mean last year and going every year forward from then, we steal a little game from Avocado and Andy Tuttle that we call the Delay Prediction Game, where we list a bunch of games from the year ahead that don't have firm release dates but are slated to come out that year. And we predict how likely it is that they'll get delayed out of 2024 or last year, 2023. So we did a list of roughly 30 games last year, and we're just going to go down the list and tally up the points. So on the list we had Alan Wake 2, which did release. Oh, by the way, sorry, to explain the point system, we each gave a percentage probability that we thought the game would release. That was me and Kappa. We gave our probabilities. If the game did release, then you got a number of points equal to that probability. And if it didn't release, you got 100 minus that probability. So say you predicted that there was only a 25% chance that Dokevi would release, and it didn't release, that means you get 75 points for Dokevi. All right, so just to save time, I'm not going to read like every single probability, but I will tell you whether a game released or didn't release. Alan Wake 2 came out, and Kappa and I both predicted a 75% probability of release. Arc 2 did not release. Armored Core 6 Fires of Rubicon did release, even though Kappa and I only thought there was a 60% chance. Frontiers of Pandora did release. Baldur's Gate 3 did release, even though the Kappa and I were not confident it would.
Yeah. Whoops. Well, because I
Blue
think
Protocol
people thought it might just stay in some kind of like
Early access,
released, not released like state. Because there's a lot of games that live like that in early access forever.
Fortnite is technically still early access,
Yeah.
which is how they get around you not having to have a PlayStation Plus subscription to play it online.
Yeah.
with PlayStation.
There's a fair share of games that are like that. They just live in that weird middle area.
I believe that was true once of Fortnite, but it is now in 1.0, and they have a special deal with PlayStation.
Oh.
But I'll have to look that up to make sure. But yeah, it was true for a very long time that they'd stayed in early access, long after you think they wouldn't be in early access. So next up was Blue Protocol, which did release in Japan, but not in the West, so we counted it as not releasing. Builders of Egypt, which Cap and I were both very confident would release and did not, and is still and has recently pushed back its release date from Q1 2024 to
Possible.
you could, yeah, possibly. Will it release? Who knows? Grand Blue Fantasy Relink did not release, even though I was fairly confident it would. Silk Song did not release,
Yeah.
even though Cap and I
Holy
were
shit.
confident it would come out.
Game fall off the planet.
Yeah. Homeworld 3 did not come out, and we didn't think it would. Lies of P did come. We were mixed on that. Spider-Man 2 came out, and we both thought it would. Metroid Prime 4 did not come out, and neither of us thought it would. Mina the Hollower did not come out, even though Kappa thought it would and I did not. Pal World did not come out, just came into early access a couple of days ago. Payday 3 did come out, we both thought it would. Perfect Dark did not come out. I thought there was a 0% chance. Kappa said 75%. I don't think it's even coming out this year.
I've heard less about it this year than last year, actually.
Pikmin 4 we both got hosed on because Kappa said 20%, I said 10% chance, and it came out, and it was fantastic. So joke's on us for getting to play a really cool game, I guess. Pragmata we both thought would come out. It did not.
Game of the
Redfall,
year.
Pikmin 4 should have been in the Game of the Year conversation. Yeah. It was fantastic. Redfall did come out. She Dreams Elsewhere. Yeah. She Dreams Elsewhere did not come out. Stalker 2, Heart of Chernobyl did not come out. We were really split on that one. Kappa thought 80% chance. I thought 20% chance.
It's still
Starfield did
next month. I think.
No, it got delayed
again.
Yeah, because I mean, it's hard to make a stalker game when your country is being bombarded by a Russian invasion. Starfield did come out, and we both thought it would with 85% chance. Sid Duality, we were way off on this because we thought that they would release the video game to coincide with the release of the anime, and they did not do that at all.
So now nobody's going to basically play it, Whoops.
Yeah, like 5 people play it. Oops. Yeah.
It's the Avatar syndrome.
I heard the anime was okay, but I don't have a Disney Plus account, so I haven't seen it. Tron Identity did come out. Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2 did not come out, unfortunately. And The Wolf Among Us 2 did not come out.
It's on my list for Fantasy Critic this year, though, so I'm getting all in on it.
Yeah, it had better come out. We've been waiting for a really long time. All right. So, we did that for 2023.
Yeah, Cindy would murder you if you didn't have Silksong in here.
Oh, yeah. I got to remember to put that on there. I was just looking at the list from last year, like, wait, maybe some of those should be on this list. All right, so we're just going to go down this list of games that I have here. For audio listeners, we only have audio listeners. There's no video version of this podcast. Yeah. I don't. Do you expect me to get a makeup and a camera and all that? It's not going to work out, man. My webcam is this old used 480p dealie from 2005 that still works, so I haven't thrown it out. I haven't bought an HD webcam.
Sounds like the makings of a video podcast to me.
Yeah. Can show the world my beautiful face. So I've got a list of games that are slated to come out in 2024, but no confirmation yet. And we're going to predict how likely it is, a percentage probability that it'll come out in this year.
Okay.
All right, so we're going to start off with Ara History Untold.
Oh, wait, I know Kappa. This one. This is I have to. This is a turn-based. Yep, I know this one. This one looks awesome. So I'm gonna say yes, it comes out. I'm gonna say 70% because I really want to play it. This is like Blast. This is like a Microsoft Civ, right?
Yeah. So Oxide Games, which is not owned by Microsoft, is developing it, but Microsoft is publishing it.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with 70%.
Blasto, what do you think? Sorry? Oh, okay.
Sorry. I was talking to my dog. I thought
I thought you said I need to go potty. I'm like, okay, I guess you're just gonna tell the world that you're taking a dump.
On my lap. I thought I was muted. It was the other way around. It's the opposite of the problem Merve has had this podcast. I don't have any idea about this game. I'm gonna give it 100%. It's coming out.
Oh,
okay, awesome. Bold. I'm going 90.
Okay.
Arc 2.
It's got to come out this year. You're gonna lose that sweet Vin Diesel money. otherwise, who's now got accusations against him. So,
yeah. Maybe they just don't want it to come out at that point.
Yeah, maybe like push it, hope people forget.
Like Vin Diesel, like how they took Kevin Spacey out of that movie and put in Christopher Plummer.
This one was announced, and then it was delayed so that they could make it next gen only, right? Wasn't that the deal with it?
I don't know. I am going to trust that your information on this.
It's either that
I'm
or
going to look it up to the link.
Like they switched Unreal versions, like from 4 to 5 or something. I'm going to go with 50. It's a coin flip.
All right. That guarantees you 50 points, by the way.
Well, should I just do that for all of them? No, I'm not doing that. That's Garrett's way out. Give me 20% this comes out.
Oh, 20%.
Yeah. No. Other way around. 80% this comes out.
Okay. Blasto, what do you think about Arc 2?
I'm going to give that another 100 P.
So, that is the way to go, actually, because the way we award points, I gave this really irritating and pedantic decision theoretic spiel last time we did this. Technically, this is your strategy. If you think it's more than 50%, you should always choose 100. And if you think it's less than 50%, you should always choose 0. And this maximizes your.
This assumes that I know math and I do not. So I'm just going to stick with 80.
Like, if I really wanted to make an incentive compatible scoring mechanism, you would be rewarded according to a quadratic function, which is not how we do things here. Also, that assumes that you expect utility theory. Expect utility maximizers, and I'm not going to go down that whole road.
We all appreciate it.
You've lost me.
Yeah. That's okay. I've lost myself because I haven't thought about this in a while. I mostly do stats now. I don't really think about expected utility. So I will say I'll go with Kappa. I'll go with 80. This has to come. No, I would have said 80 up until the Vin Diesel accusations came out, and now I think they're like scrubbing out the Vinny and like trying to patch in the Rock.
He doesn't even talk. You just like a caveman face, right? Like, did you just like give him a mustache?
I mean, I think you patch out Vin Diesel and you patch in the Rock,
yeah, exactly.
And you got to license the Rock. So it's probably like caught up in legal shenanigans. So I think they're
Ribisi in there, and it wouldn't matter. It's just nonverbal caveman. I think you're good to go.
I can only think of Giovanni Ribisi as like Frank from Friends. I haven't seen him in any other roles.
There is an absolute disaster of a movie that was supposed to be like Hills Have Eyes 3. It's called Mind Ripper. One of the worst movies I've ever seen. But he's like the star of that, along with Lance Henriksen. And it's Wes Craven Presents, but it was really written and directed, I think, by his son. Well, maybe not directed, maybe just written. But it is one of the worst movies you'll ever see. But
opposite
Giovanni
of that,
Ribisi is in it, and as soon as you see him as that role, that's all he'll ever be to you. I don't know why.
Well, for me, Giovanni Ribisi is in a fantastic movie came out in the '90s called Suburbia.
Oh yeah,
which
with
was
Tom Hanks, right?
No.
Oh no, that's The Burbs. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, Suburbia was an adaptation of a stage play, and like Parker Posey and a couple other like good indie actors of the time were in it. And I actually saw a stage production of it here in Oklahoma City, probably more than 20 years ago, back in like 2003 or 2002, maybe even. Well, what a great movie. And he's fantastic in it. It's a very good like 90s slacker. It's up there with like Reality Bites.
So we've got the spectrum of Ribisi now.
Yeah. Sorry.
But anyway,
I think that's going to be the episode title,
easily
The Spectrum of
could fill in
Ribisi.
for Vin Diesel and Arc 2.
Easy episode title, Spectrum of Ribisi.
Yeah, all right. Awesome. That's what we're going to do. So I put 50% because I think they've got to get the Ribisi patch
Yeah.
going.
So did you just go against your own logic here?
Yep.
Where you said it's either 0 or 100, and you're like, I'm going to go with 50.
I know it's not incentive compatible. I'm just playing the game, right? Like, if you want, I will score this according to quadratic scoring rule, and then you're going to be like, I don't understand where my points are coming from, Merv. I think you're doing some mathematical
No,
shenanigans
do whatever
behind
you're
the
doing,
scenes.
and I'm going to keep going 0 to
You've got
100.
so many
And
fantastic prizes on the line. I don't want to play fast and loose with the math, you know?
So many bragging rights. Oh yeah, I did say who won our predictions. So for who won in 2023, Kappa scored a total of 1,390 points, and I scored a total of 1,630 points. So I won by a few hundred.
Cook the books.
I
think-
think also
Yeah, I did-
what he
I did cook the
with our
books.
Fantasy Critic League. I get the feeling that Merv is playing around fast and loose with the math.
I'm
here
sharing my
to
screen
play for
right now. You
himself.
can see my spreadsheet math.
Yeah, but I don't know how you cooked those formulas.
You can see, it's right here. If E21 equals 1, then B21, else 100 minus B21. You can see the formula right
You and
there.
I both know that I don't know what any of that means.
It's not my fault.
Foiled by
you don't
math
know.
again.
Foiled by basic spreadsheet formulas. All right, Avowed. Do you think it's
100%.
coming out this year? 100? All right.
I think
Blasto, what do you think?
Hondo P.
Hundo P again.
I thought this looked pretty good in the Xbox.
I'm going 95.
Yeah, the Xbox preview show, I thought it looked pretty good. I think the Pillars of Eternity world is a lot weaker than other game worlds, so I want to see if Obsidian can make it pop a little more. But I guess we'll wait and see.
The landscapes look good, and I don't have anything else much nice to say about it.
Yeah, it's kind of boring. Like I just don't find the Pillars world as exciting, I guess. I actually like Tyranny a lot, and that one kind of ended up, I think, being kind of like a miss. But yeah, it's something about Pillars where I didn't really vibe with it as much as I have other ones.
All right, the Western release of Blue Protocol.
0.
0, really?
Same.
Okay. 0. I mean, it's already out in Japan.
Yes.
And it was supposed to come out in the West last year.
I think
And y'all are going 0.
because it didn't come out in the
It's
West,
never coming out in the
Yep.
West.
I think they kind of just said,
I mean, they have announced it for Western release and also an Amazon publishing deal.
Mother 3. It's never coming
does
out.
it have a release date?
It does not.
Then no, it's not coming out.
Not coming out? Okay.
I mean, this is an MMO, right?
Yeah.
It's very hard to backwards release an MMO. I've seen it happen once with Final Fantasy, damn it, 11, where it came out in Japan. It was out for like 3 years, and they released it into the US, and it was an absolute clusterfuck. And like that game. Go ahead.
Fantasy Star Online all over again.
Yeah, because like nobody wants to play an MMO where not everybody's on the same footing, right? And so like a lot of the fun in the MMO is the exploration, the boss strategy, stuff like that. That shit's already out for Blue Protocol. If that came out tomorrow, I know the best way to level, the classes, what they do, where to go to the bosses. You can't release MMOs like this. It's a fucking mistake. And every time they've tried it, it's been a fucking nightmare. So I don't think this comes out.
Okay.
I'd also like to point out the Red
well-
has 12 people online, which is not exactly setting the world on fire. So,
I'm going 90.
90.
I think y'all are out to lunch.
damn.
I think this. I mean, it was supposed to come out. Like the Western release was supposed to come out pretty close to the Japanese release originally.
It came out
so
in Japan
I don't think.
3 months ago.
No, okay. When did it come out in Japan? I think mid 2023.
Oh,
I've been
shit.
waiting 3 years for them to release the sequel to Brain Age in the West.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I'm not.
June 14th,
Yeah.
2023. It's Bandai Namco has announced a worldwide 2024 release. It's coming out
Well,
this
that's the
year.
thing about
Y'all are out
MMOs
to
too,
lunch.
is you're getting patches, you're getting new content. Now you've got to go back and give all that localization, right? You got to
Yeah.
test it. You got to make sure that the localization doesn't screw up anything. I don't. MMOs are hard, man. The companies that can make MMO work are few and far between. And does Bandai Namco have a successful MMO?
So, here's their strategy. The Western version will always lag behind the Japanese version.
Fuck that.
So essentially,
why?
Essentially, because when they complete the Japanese version, then they localize
Oh,
it.
this is being published by Amazon. That's all I needed to know.
Oh, like I think Amazon's gonna. I'm not saying this is gonna be good or that Amazon won't screw it up. I just think it's coming out this year in the West.
Yeah, you're probably right. Well, Amazon will shove this thing out the door, and then you'll never hear anything about. But you get what I'm saying, right? With an MMO, it's a little different, right? It's not like an RPG you play by yourself, and it's like if there's already a guild that knows how to kill this boss, they put that shit on YouTube, and then by the time you play it, if it's all been figured out, it's just not that fun, you know?
I think it's going to be more like Genshin, but with more multiplayer features. So you can do a lot of it solo, and it's going to be like raids and stuff that you do multiplayer.
Yeah.
But like the campaign is solo or co-op, that kind of thing. Next on the list, I'm just going to commit you to your zeros.
Okay.
Commit to your shame.
I'm fine with it.
Bounty Star: The Morose Tale of Graveyard Clem. That's the Annapurna published cartoony mech game.
What is it called?
Bounty Star.
I feel like I've never heard of this one before.
Annapurna is on it. I'm giving it Hundo P.
Yeah,
All
they
right.
don't usually miss. 99.7.
Okay, we're going outside the realm of integers. Okay, 99.7 it
They
is.
want to go with I. Oh.
Okay, we can't do complex numbers.
Yeah,
it's not going to work.
This I remember this one now. This is
X equals
you
Y.
threw me
Okay.
off with that subtitle, but now I remember what it is.
I'm going with 60. I'm not confident. The Casting of Frank Stone.
Oh yeah, 100%.
100. Okay. Where are you going with Blasto?
I have no idea
It's
what
the new
this is.
Supermassive.
I'm following Kappa 100%.
This one,
It's the new game from Supermassive.
yeah, it's Supermassive.
So same,
It looks,
like new Until Dawn kind of
Yeah.
ish game.
yeah. It looks like a Saw, at least from the trailer or something like that. It's a Dead by Daylight type thing, but it feels like that comes out because I think
I'm going with 80. I don't trust it.
You don't think so? Didn't they release the character in Dead by Daylight or something like that? I might be wrong.
Maybe.
Okay. Anyway, it looks.
Might be one of those collabs you predicted would happen last year. Decapolice.
This is the one I think of. I've got a.
The new game from Level 5. It's the turn-based cop RPG.
0%.
0. Okay. It was supposed to come out last year.
Yeah, but didn't they basically say that they have to think long and hard about releasing anything in America anymore after Kuni flopped forever? Level 5.
No, I mean, maybe they said that then, but not with regards to the Decapolice release.
Okay.
Okay, well,
0%.
take your 0. Okay. Blasto, what do you think?
I'm giving them 0 because fuck the police.
My opinions on law enforcement are not wholly positive, shall we say. That being said, I do want to win this game, and I both think you are crazy for saying 0. So I'm going with 95.
0. So if it doesn't come out and I said 0, I get 100 points, right?
Yeah. Dungeons of... Well, unless you want me to go quadratic
No.
scoring roll, then who knows? No quadratic scoring roll. Okay. Dungeons of Hinterberg.
Yeah. I don't know about this one. Who's publishing this? I will look at publisher a lot.
I don't know who's
I've
publishing
never
it.
heard
I think it's Microbird Games.
Curve.
I can look
They
this
made
up.
For the King 2, Patch Quest, From Space, You Suck at Parking. A lot of.
Oh yeah, so Microbird is a first-time developer, but Curve is the publisher.
Yeah,
Suck
I
at
was looking at the
Parking. Great.
publisher. That's how I.
Yeah, Wobbly Life. What the hell is this?
You play Golf
Some
Gang?
weird ass. I've played Golf Gang. I did not like Golf
Okay,
Gang very
then I'm
much.
saying 50%. Based on Golf Gang and Merv's thoughts on Golf Gang.
Golf Gang is okay. It's just not as good as Golf with Your Friends.
Yeah, this game looks like it's got like a lot bigger scale going on than what they're usually making, and those graphics look fantastic, but man, seems like a lot going on in this game. And then I'm looking at their other games and they're like clickers.
I'm going 0 on this one because I'm not interested.
Their whole and like so Curve Games' entire catalog is 90% off basically on Steam, so that might sway your vote.
Watch like
that tells me
next episode Blast is on. He comes back. He's like, okay, so I'm like the biggest Curve digital sicko now.
Yeah, I bought their entire library for $10.
Spent $8 and bought everything they've ever made.
I just can't get enough of Wobbly Life. That's also what someone with erectile dysfunction might say. Anyway, Dungeons of Hinterberg. I think this comes out this year, 85.
Man.
Earthblade.
Yeah.
New game from the creator of Celeste.
Yeah, I like this game a lot. Like maybe like a wishful 75, I think.
Wishful 75. Yeah. Let's do that. Blasto, what do you think? Hundo P, 0. Are you finally going to explore the mushy middle?
It's a platformer, right?
Hundo P.
Yeah.
Hundo P. I think it is a platformer. I don't know what this game is.
Platformers don't usually catch delays. I mean, usually.
I mean, folk song.
Yeah.
But
what's the one that everybody kickstart back that took like 70 years to come out? Was that like one of the Mega Mans or like the
Mighty Number 9?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah. The only thing I remember about that game is the whole anime fan on prom night thing. I'll never forget it. I'm going to say Earthblade is... I think it'll get delayed. I'm putting 35. Earth Defense Force 6.
Yeah, okay, 100% on this one.
100,
EDF,
okay.
EDF.
Blasto, are you also cheering for EDF?
Yes, sir.
Is that a hundo or a 76 or an 82?
That is a 100.
Okay.
Going
This
0
one came
to
out in
100
Japan already,
whole way
right?
down.
Sorry?
I think that this is 7?
6.
Okay. 6 already came out in Japan in 2022. Yeah.
Okay,
Easiest
so I
I've
guess...
ever made.
Okay, yeah. All right, in that case, I will put it down. I'll also put 100. Why not? Let's all just go 100 across the board. If it came out 2 years ago in Japan, it's got to come out now.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like 1 year you get iffy, but 2.
All right, Fantasy Life I, The Girl Who Steals Time.
I don't know about this one. I remember this one when this was announced last year.
Yeah.
This is level 5 again.
Is it? I don't know. This is like one of those things that's too Nintendo for Merve.
Oh, it is super
like,
Nintendo. It looks like an Animal Crossing
If
almost.
it's too Nintendo for Merve, it's a 0 for me.
Social slow life RPG.
That's not my thing. Look, I am by no means a Nintendo hater, but I'm like a Nintendo fan. You know, I like my Switch. I play a bunch of first-party Nintendo games. I love my Marios and my Pikmins and my Xenoblades. But I'm not like getting into the Switch deep cuts and playing these fantasy life things or like crossing my animals. That's not me, man.
This just looks like Animal Crossing, though, and I think like this makes sense if you start making this during pandemic and everybody's going crazy for Animal Crossing. But I don't know, that ship might have sailed.
The people who
Switch has like 80
still
farming
playing
simulators.
Yeah. I don't know the Switch economy that well for who's playing what. This is too cute for me. I don't want to see this in any form. I'm going 48%.
48%. I mean, like, whatever. People can have their cute, cozy games. I'm famously a critic of cute and cozy games, and not so much a critic of the games themselves, a critic of the way they're talked about in the discourse. How like I think unearned virtue is attributed to them, and in attributing that unearned virtue, you can mask the conditions under which those games have made, which might have been very abusive. You don't know. So that's why I'm always a little bit. It always rubs you the wrong way how cozy games get talked about. In
Yeah,
games discourse.
I agree.
Like
the game
it's
is
possible
cozy,
to make.
but you don't. Yeah.
Yeah, it's possible that it was made under abusive labor conditions. And then also, like, really violent games might have been made under abusive labor conditions, like, say, Black Myth Wukong, which is coming out this year. So, I think these things are orthogonal, but yeah. Anyway, Fantasy Life, I think this is coming out this year, but not, like, super confident. So I'm going to say 72. Why not? Let's get out of the multiples of 5 and let's just switch things up.
Wild.
I mean, at the end of the day, the spreadsheet's just going to compute the scores for us. It's going to compute some fancy math that I've rigged apparently, since you don't trust my spreadsheets. So whatever, put whatever number you want in there. Next up, Flintlock: The Siege of Dawn.
I like this game a lot. This one is like on my radar.
I wouldn't have expected it. It's a Souls-like.
Yeah, it's like an action RPG. Yeah, this looks really cool. Open world action RPG. Does it have a release date? No. Just 2020.
None of these have firm release.
Okay, but like not even like a month or a time frame. This is just 2024.
No. Yeah.
I like that you could. It was like a caravan. I remember that going across the worlds fighting gods. This looks rad. 82%.
82. Okay. It's got a Q3 release.
I think it makes it. This is the Baldur's Gate of 2024. I'm that hard in on Flintlock: The Siege of Dawn. Don't let me down, Derek Bradley.
Going 100.
Oh man! All right. Are you
I
also?
think it's 100 or 0.
Also giving it the pre-game of the year.
I think Captain Blasto just understands that when you have a linear op demand, then your solutions are always corner solutions. Anyway, that made sense to about 2 people. I'm going to suggest that this is probably getting delayed and might get delayed. I'm going 61. Frostpunk 2.
Oh yeah, this one's coming out. 74.
74. Okay. What do you think, Blasto?
100.
Okay. I'm going at 88. Greedfall 2, The Dying World.
I don't want this game to come out. I hated the movement in the last one. Have you ever played this one, Greedfall?
Nope, because I have self-respect.
Yeah, it has the clunkiest movement like possible for a RPG. It's like you're steering like a tank on grease. Oh, it's a prequel? I don't...
It's a prequel?
This is really weird.
Screw that.
0.
0? Okay, what are you suggesting, Kappa?
I might go negative on this one. I might do it again. This one ain't coming out.
If you say negative, I'm just going to put 0. Can't give you negative.
This game is not only unannounced, but they delete the source code so it never accidentally. It gets like,
they go back in time
like
and
Batgirl.
they kill the people who are going to come up with the idea to make Greedfall.
It's like, no, we're going to make it and then not release it, actually.
It was originally made by Baby Hitler, and then someone went back in time and murdered it.
I hated the first one, so I don't know. I'm not being objective here, but I'm going to go with 40%.
40%. Okay. I'm going to give Baby Hitler a chance, and I'm going to say 45. Oh, God. Okay. All right. Hollow Knight Silk Song.
Oh, man.
Not happening. It's never coming out. 0.
Just saying 0? Okay. I think it's coming out on January 1st, 2025, just to screw with everyone's fantasy critic.
I want to just know When is the last thing we heard about Silk Song? 2022?
Oh, we heard about it getting delayed to 2024 in 2023.
10%.
10%. Okay, I will say, in the interest of transparency, this is the only game on the list that doesn't have an official 2024 window.
I mean, it should though, right? I mean, it's
Yeah.
that game should have came out 3 years ago. So,
Probably. I think it comes out this year in some form. I'm going with 85. I don't know. I'll go all the way up to 90. I'm confident. Hotel Barcelona.
Yeah.
This is the Swery Suda 51 collab.
a lot of ego in that room, you know.
I don't think of those two as egotistical. I think of them as, I guess, like really strong personalities. I don't know.
Kind of like, but like I feel like there's gonna be a little bit of, you know, this is my way or the highway, a little bit going on there. Any reports about it coming out other than
It's supposed to come out this year.
Indie Horror Game 2.5D?
Yeah.
These are the kind of games that always get canceled. I feel like this is like a trap. This is a 31% all the way.
31%. Okay. Blasto, you're going with 0, 100, 82. What can I do for you? 0. Okay.
Doesn't this seem like the kind of game that always gets canceled? Like some.
I don't think this is getting canceled, but I also don't think it's coming out this year. I'm going 45. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle.
Oh man, that thing needs to go back in the oven. That's a 22% for me.
22%. So yeah, we didn't really talk about the developer direct, but they did show it off at the Xbox presentation.
I
think it's definitely coming, but it's going to be terrible 100%.
I think there's a way to make a first-person Indiana Jones. Okay, first of all, I wouldn't make an Indiana Jones game first-person because I think that misunderstands the appeal of Indiana Jones. People don't want to be Indiana Jones; they want to watch Indiana Jones do cool things.
Yeah, it's like you should be like Mutt, right? Well, not Mutt, but like that kind of character. You're Short Round, or you're, I don't know. Oh, he's got a lot of buddies. You want to be Indiana Jones's buddy, not him, right?
Yeah, or like, not even like that I want to be someone. I think of it like I think of playing Uncharted. I don't feel like I'm Nathan Drake. I feel like I'm a movie director directing Nathan Drake on what to do.
Yeah, this also, like, setting-wise, it's kind of a mess, right? You're this is between Raiders and Last Crusade, right?
That's what they said, but I've only seen Raiders.
What?
So I can't really.
Last Crusade's the best, man.
I mean, I didn't really grow up watching indie. I probably should go back and watch them.
Last Crusade,
just to,
like, the best way to describe it, it's like a buddy cop movie, like him and his dad kind of hanging out. It's less about a lot of the other stuff and more about like being cool with your family.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
it's very,
that sounds actually neat.
like kind of heartwarming as far as you know. There's still the adventures and shit, but it's more about like you want Indy and his dad to get along, which is a weird way to describe the movie, but great effects in it too. But you know, it's got a lot going on there.
Yeah, so I'm going to give this 70% chance it comes out.
Really?
I don't think they can fundamentally... Yeah, I don't think that they can fundamentally change what this game is. I think they've had it cooking for a while. I think they're committed to making this first-person Indiana Jones game. I don't think the combat looks very good, to be honest. But maybe the puzzle solving will carry it. And I think they're probably pretty happy with where it is.
Yeah, I wonder too if there's something about the deal with Disney where Disney's like, we don't care, get this thing out the door, at some point.
Yeah, probably. Next up, John Carpenter's Toxic Commando.
God, I want this game so bad. I haven't seen anything about it since it's been announced, though. Let me see. Focus. They're usually pretty good. It was revealed in June. I'm going to give this 89.
89. Okay, Blasto, what do you say?
100.
100.
100.
I'll be playing the shit out of this then.
I'm going 55.
Oh.
Little Nightmares 3.
100%.
100%? What do you think, Blasto?
Hundo P.
Hundo P. I'm going 90. Lost Records Bloom and Rage.
What is this?
That's the new narrative game from Don't Nod.
Oh, okay, yeah. The only thing I remember about this is it had like that ending shot of like a lighthouse, and it felt very Life is Strange mixed with Stranger Things, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, they don't usually delay these. So like this is like these games that are like 99% recording the voice acting, and that's it.
I think it's considerably more effort.
Yes, there's a lot going on, but like it's a lot of talking.
Yeah,
and that takes a while to record talking. That I'm just walking you through my thought process. You got 4 characters. That's double the amount of talking than they normally do. So I'm gonna go.
That's true. It's usually only two people. Yeah.
So I'm gonna go with 41%.
41%. Okay. Blasto, what do you think?
0%.
I got you with that 4%
0%.
thing, right? How you're thinking?
Yeah. Like, oh no, it's more complicated now. You know what? I agree. I think it's going to get delayed to early 2025. I'm going to go with 35%.
And then the media, they're just like, look, it's got 4 people. What do you want?
Yeah.
That's the most we can do. It's got 4 people.
They're in France. They'll say, oh yeah, catch person. All right. Eugenics.
Excuse me?
Eugenics.
Okay.
Did you think I just said eugenics out of nowhere? I'm sorry.
No, I'm against
there's no pattern here. I'm not like talking about supporting baby Hitler and then eugenics.
0%
Eugenics.
Not in this lifetime.
Okay, you think the new Edmund McMillan game is not coming out? What do you think, Blasto?
0%.
0%. I think it finally comes out this year. I'm going 55.
Not exactly a ringing endorsement, but
Penny's Big Breakaway.
oh yeah, this one.
Hundo P.
Hundo P. What do you think, Kappa?
I always got to look up the publisher. This is not how I cheat on this. This is a yo-yo game. I remember the yo-yo.
Same folks who made Sonic Mania?
Okay, so when I see this is coming to Switch, PS5, Windows, and Xbox.
And it's being published by
Private Division.
Take-Two Interactive. Private Division, which is a label of Take-Two Interactive.
I think that's coming out. That's 81.
81. I'm going 100 on this. I think it comes out.
In my mind, it makes sense if you say, hey, this is going to come out on Switch, PS5, Windows, and Xbox. You got all your bases covered, right? You're not like just trying to like, hey, maybe we'll make this thing work on the Switch and the Xbox or something. Nope. You're right out the window with this one, ready to go. Penny's Big Breakaway, gigantic hit. Throw that yo-yo.
Yeah.
This kind of looks like Shantae a little bit.
A little bit. It's got some of that energy. Although, like, starring a kid instead of
Princess
Shantae. The Plucky Squire.
Oh yeah, I love this one. See who the publisher is.
Devolver.
Oh yeah, 100%. This one's coming out.
What do you think, Blasto? All right, I'm predicting 100. Blasto can tell us his prediction in a second. Skate Story.
Oh yeah, I'm surprised you put this one on here. This is where you skate hell on your skateboard, right? No, this is Devolver too. Yeah, this is like a 78.
78. It got delayed from last year, so I think it's coming out this year. I'm going 95. Blasto, you got anything for Skate Story? No, I think he had to attend to something.
Okay.
So when he comes back, he can give us his predictions for those games. Star Wars
Oh
Outlaws.
man, it's got to come out. Don't you think? Gotta come out.
I think it might get delayed, to be honest.
Hundo P.
I'm like 50-50. Hundo P for Star Wars Outlaws.
I think 100 too.
All right,
I think it's got to come out. I think Disney's in a weird spot, and I think they've been kind of like been a little more patient with a lot of things than they're going to be in the future. I think they tell Ubi this shit comes out this year.
I'm 50-50 on it. I'm guaranteeing myself 50 points. Blaster, what are your predictions for Plucky Squire and Skate Story?
Oh, sorry, I was playing with my dog. Plucky Squire, Hundo P. Skate Stories, Hundo P.
Okay. All right,
Wait,
Steel
did
Seed.
you get my Outlaws? What did I say, 100?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. You said 100. I put down 100 for you. Steel Seed.
Yeah, this one's coming out too. Storm in a Teacup. I don't know who the hell they are. You know who they are?
No idea. What else have they done?
See, that's what I'm going to. Yeah. Oh, Close to the Sun. I like that game. That's pretty much it, huh? They have a game called Nero.
Yankee
Nothing ever
Lantern.
remains obscure. Oh boy. That's something. Let's go.
Mixed on Steam. It's like Pharrell
Yeah.
Williams band,
No one ever
Nerd.
really
No one
dies.
ever really dies.
Let's go. This one's a coin flip. Let's go 50.
All right, Blaster, what do you think?
I'm gonna go 0 on that one.
Yeah.
I'm going
There's
65.
not a lot of promising Storm in a Teacup games as far as their releases. Yeah, they get like one out
Right.
every 5 years.
I'll tell you right now, I'm going 0 from here to Visions of Mana.
Okay, so 0 on Stellar Blade, 0 on Still Wakes the Deep, 0 on. Oh, okay. We'll do these in sequence. So 0 on Stellar Blade. I'm going 80 on Stellar Blade. What about you, Kappa? 75. Still Wakes the Deep.
Who's producing this? Chinese rooms are still making games?
Yeah,
I don't know what's secret.
they never stopped.
Make Way.
They're a big studio instead of like the tiny outfit that made Dear Esther before.
Okay. I thought
Yeah.
they got like absorbed into something. That's what I meant. I thought they like someone bought them. I guess. This looks
It's possible.
boring. I'm gonna give this a 75. This is the exact kind of game that comes out and I don't play.
Yeah. Okay, so 0 for Blasto. I'm gonna say 60. Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2.
Man, this one's gonna hurt. I've got this like on my like most wanted list, and I also don't think it's coming out. 41.
41. Blasto's a 0 on
Yep.
that. I'm gonna say 10%. I think it's getting delayed. Because they had to switch developers.
and
They dropped everything that Hardsuit
So-
Labs did, and now it's with, I believe, the Chinese room, actually.
I'd like to point out that if you had went negative on that one, you probably would have got a little extra bonus points.
I'm also going to point out that there's no such thing as negative probability.
It went to
The same
a
way there's no such
publisher
thing as-
and it went backwards. It got
In the same way, there's no
further
such thing as probabilities greater than 100%.
I think this game's got like a 10% chance of ever coming out. Forget next year. But I think if it doesn't come out next year, it's just like firmly in development hell at that point, you know?
Yeah. Visions of Mana.
Yeah, this one looked awesome, didn't it?
Yeah.
80% I want to play it.
80. All right.
Hundo P.
I'm going 90. Hundo. Okay. The Wolf Among Us 2.
Hundo P. If only for my fantasy critic score.
It is
Okay.
Telltale, right? Or no, this one isn't Telltale, right?
It is Telltale. It's the reformed
So
Telltale.
the ones that made The
But
Expanse.
they didn't make The Expanse. They just published it. I believe The Expanse was made by Deck
Who the
Nine.
hell's making this game?
It is so. Telltale is both a developer and a publisher now. They are developing The Wolf Among Us 2, and they published the Expanse.
I'm
Game.
gonna go with 20%. I feel like Telltale doesn't understand business. I think this one's not gonna come out because of that. They're still making it for the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. That's just wasted dev time.
I mean, there are a lot of PS4s and Xbox Ones out there, but like, I don't know if any of them.
Didn't they lay off like half the studio though?
They did. That's why
the whole studio closed. They reformed from the bare bones, which is why I think it's going to come out and it's going to be fucking awesome.
So just to clarify what happened, the original Telltale shut down, like went bankrupt, went defunct. The naming rights were bought, and they reformed the studio, hiring back some of the old staff. But they mostly act as a publisher now and have a bit of their own internal development. But it's not exactly the same Telltale that developed The Walking Dead and the first Wolf Among Us.
But they finished The Walking Dead, and it was good.
The first season was good.
Expanse was good, but like this is one of those like I don't even know who's making things for them. It just kind of feels like the game comes out. I don't know. It's weird.
All right, so I'm gonna suggest that this. I don't think this is coming out this year. I'm gonna say 35%. If they hadn't laid off all those staff since reforming, I might have gone higher. But
I'm more worried about healthcare at this point. Not making Wolf Among Us 2. You know, you gotta get it right.
World of Goo 2.
This needs to be on every single tablet sold in the United States within 14 months, so I'm going to give it a 84% chance to come out.
All right. Blasto.
100.
Doesn't it feel like this was on everything you bought for like 10 years?
No, they waited so long. Like, it's been like 15 years. And people were just like, it's never going to happen. And if they finally announced it, I'm confident that they're ready to go.
There was no
probably
rush
when
with
the
this
new
one.
iPhone comes out in the fall.
Yeah, it's gonna be on every.
I'm going with 95%.
Yeah. It's funny that like people who played this game like when they were 10 are now like 30. Like finally back to World of Goo. See what's going on.
It kills me a little bit inside. Just about every day when I reset, I work at a college and I reset students' passwords, and the vast majority of them were born after I graduated high school.
Oh yeah, I know. It's tough. I talk to my kids about stuff. And I'm like, don't you remember? They're like, I was like -11 when that happened.
I see kids wearing like Nirvana T-shirts.
Yeah.
In like an ironic retro way, and I die a little bit inside.
I joined a recreational dodgeball league recently, and I was placed on a team with people who were born after 9/11.
Yeah, it's tough.
Almost everyone I talked to at my job was born after 9/11, and that's another thing where I'm like, I have no, like, you guys don't understand what that was like. And then I'm like, man, that's how my grandpa felt about like Pearl Harbor.
Yeah, like the difference between like 50s doo-wop and like Nirvana right now is like, for us as kids.
For sure, that's exactly it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, I hope World of Goo 2 comes out because I look forward to deleting it over and over again on tablets for the next 100 years. But
and finally, Zenless Zone Zero from Hoyoverse.
Hoyoverse, right?
Never heard of it. Giving it a 0.
They've got all the money in the world. It feels like right now.
Yeah.
Because whatchamacallit, they're
Genshin or
printing money.
Honkai Star Rail.
Honkai is printing money. Like every time I go on Android, it's like recommend like a game. You know, like you can filter it. It's like not necessarily like top selling, but top grossing or something like that. It's like just those two. every single time, and has been for like the past 2 years. Um, is this game like Genshin? Is it like a action role player?
So it's an action role-playing game, but with roguelike elements, and it's set in an urban
Is
environment.
it coming out on anything besides mobile?
Coming out on PC.
Okay. Okay? Last question: is Genshin on PC?
Yes, that's where I've played it
Oh,
primarily.
really? Okay. 81%.
All right. I'm going
Because
75.
sometimes developing on a new platform, you get a wrench thrown in. But if they've got the experience in house,
Yeah, there are no wrinkles here I could see. All right, so that is our release predictions game. We're going to conclude this episode by talking briefly about some of the things we're anticipating in the year ahead. So we'll just go down and share a couple of games we're anticipating in 2024. Blasto, what are a couple of games that you are anticipating?
You know, I don't have the Princess Peach game. I think is
Oh, yeah.
probably my most hotly.
Oh yeah, Princess Peach
anticipated
Showtime.
title Of
that outfit they
of
had
this
her
year so
in,
far.
cool. I hope there's a lot of that in that game, like outfit switching and stuff.
But like other than that, I'm kind of waiting to see what everybody's going to announce, because there's just not a lot on the horizon that I'm all that excited about. And I hate to be that guy on a gaming podcast. It's like, yeah, I got nothing.
I hate it all.
But
Yeah. So how about this? Let's. So Kappa and I will talk
Yeah.
about games that have been announced, and then we'll talk about some rumored games. So Kappa, what games that have been announced are you interested in playing this
Number
year?
one, I'm gonna say Dragon's Dogma 2. Um,
Oh yeah.
Dragon's Dogma felt like an ahead of its time game in a lot of ways, right? Like the what are they called, the pawn system. I thought that was really cool. A lot of the combat was a little, I don't want to say Souls like, because I know people lose their mind, but like it was a little bit more visceral, I guess, than a lot of RPG combat. They were doing a lot of cool stuff with like certain quests taking place at certain times, and had some cool bounty boards, really cool monster design. Um, it felt like a game that was like a lot of, it was biting off a lot that more than it could chew, but it mostly hit, right? And Capcom, I think, has that weird reputation where they try some things and then it's like the game either handles it or doesn't. And this one was one of the ones where it did it all connected, it all felt cool. I really am like saying that I'm interested in this as long as it doesn't get too Souls like, because I don't like Soul shit, right? So if they can find that balance and make it a fun action RPG, I want to play it, right? If it gets into, okay, now we're dipping toes into Souls, I'm kind of out. So that's what I really want to see where this one goes from there, because I love the first one, and if it can it kind of felt like a Japanese take on like Fable, if that makes sense, right? And
Yeah, I've heard it most often compared to Skyrim, but I don't know if that's necessarily the best point of comparison.
yeah, but so I think it's a series that's ripe for more, and it's going to be a real hard line to walk because of what's come since. And I hope it finds its own identity and doesn't just do grim dark bullshit Souls. Everything's hard, because that's not what I enjoyed about Dragon's Dogma.
Absolutely. Anything else you're looking forward to?
Yeah, Flintlock Siege of Dawn, future game of the year. We think we've talked a
Oh,
little bit
yeah?
about that one. Homeworld 3.
Oh yeah.
Homeworld is like we were talking about comfort gaming before. Homeworld is almost my comfort game, even though it can be fucking annoying a lot of times, and you can really feel like you're getting cheated plenty of times in there. A little worried about this because they threw a word in there when they started talking about the co-op mode, and that word was roguelike. And I don't know if I want
Oh
that in my
no. Hopefully the single player campaign is fully
Yeah,
altered.
that's what I'm hoping too. Yeah, and then maybe that's how you swap it around with the co-op modes. But I just finished Deserts of Karak, couple months back, and it kind of got my homeworld mojo rising all over again. And I know it's been delayed a couple times. And Homeworld's a series that I feel like um, it's harder to break into than most other games, where like that first couple hours is like, what am I even doing here? And I know they've got some weird like hybrid studio going on, and it's like people from Gearbox and all these other places making it. And I think
Blackbird
yeah,
Interactive is the lead
so I
developer.
think it's Gearbox. Some of it was like they crowdfunded some of it, I think. And no,
I
that's
don't think so.
I don't know if they crowdfunded this one. I'm not sure. Um,
I don't think so.
but yeah, and then Relic got involved somehow. But I want to see, this game feels like it's been pushing around on the periphery forever, and I really want to see where it goes. I hope it leads into the weird mythos a little more too. There's a lot of like Dune shit going on in Homeworld, and I hope it kind of leans a little more into that.
All right. So as for what I'm looking forward to, it's coming out in just a few days. Like a Dragon Infinite
Yeah,
Wealth.
I'm a
I
fan of the name.
love. Yeah, I love pretty much everything RGG Studio puts out. I thought The Man Who Erased His Name was fantastic. The previous turn-based entry, Yakuza 7 or Yakuza Like a Dragon, was incredible. So I am really looking forward to this. And they put out a demo of it where you get to explore a bit of the Honolulu map, and it is gorgeous and so well rendered. So
Now, a little bit
really
of
looking forward to
controversy
that.
too this week with it. Um,
Yeah, they're locking New Game Plus behind like the deluxe edition, and that's BS, and they shouldn't do it. But
the deluxe
I mean, I
edition
don't
is
play New.
$110 though. Is that right?
Uh, I don't know what that is in the currency that I would pay
Let me
for
see what
it.
it is on Steam.
I mean, I can look it up on
Like,
Steam. I can
because
just
like
open
people
it.
were like, "Yeah, infinite wealth when you charge $110 for the game." So that's the code for infinite wealth. Uh, okay, so infinite wealth 69. Deluxe. Okay, deluxe edition is 85. Ultimate edition is 110.
So it is. You're right. It's $110 in Canadian dollars. So whatever that is in American dollars, who knows?
Maybe.
Yeah, so it's 110 Canadian dollars, which I didn't pay. I got a discount key off like Green Man Gaming
Yeah,
or someplace,
I love Green Man.
or
If
Fanatical
I
or
could get
wherever
us
I bought
one
it from.
sponsor for the podcast, it'd be Green Man Gaming. Hey, do you guys enjoy
Yeah,
gray markets
Green Man's not a great market though.
anymore?
It's not
Yeah,
like
I think
G2A.
there was rumors they were, but they're like, no, we just buy our keys. Like they just straight up buy keys, and
Yeah, yeah.
that's. But I think they got banned from like I want to say like Reddit or something for a while, and they got called that, and then like they basically proved no, we're not a gray market, so that's a bad joke. But I think they're pretty chill now. They just buy keys.
My bank in this when I was living in the States, my bank used to block transactions with them because they were misclassified as a gambling website.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
No, I love Green Man.
Yes.
Like I don't know how they do it. I don't know how it works, but it's like one of those things where it's just like, hey, I'm going to save 20% and the rest I don't care. They give codes like it's like nothing too. Like I've gotten so many free games from them.
Yeah. It's because they buy the keys in
Yeah.
bulk. That's why they get them at a discount. Then the other games I'm looking forward to, Iodine Chronicle 100 Heroes. I like the style they're going for. Visuals look great. I like that HD 2D kind of style they got going on. Of course, Plucky Squire, which we've talked about a lot on this podcast. And then a few more obscure indie picks. Opus Prism Peak, which is the next game from Sigono, who made my 2021 Game of the Year, Opus Echo of Star Song. Tokyo Stories, which is this lo-fi 3D pixel art narrative adventure set in nighttime Tokyo. The Explorator, which is a comedic first-person shooter with this kind of flat-shaded Adult Swim cartoon aesthetic. And finally, Naiad, which is a chill aquatic adventure game that looks kind of like a top-down Abzu. So yeah, that's what
I
I'm
had
looking forward to.
one or two more, but one I think is on everybody's list. Hades 2. Definitely.
Oh yeah, that's coming out into early
And then,
access this year.
goddamn Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2.
I think it's gonna break your
It's-
heart,
it's-
man.
I'm like 90% prepared for it, but there was so much in that first game that was just like you can never recapture that. And then I've slowly heard like, yeah, we're not going to do a Malkavian. We're not going to allow you to do certain things during certain playthroughs. Like you're going to have to basically do all these like different playthroughs to see everything. I hate when RPGs. I mean, I get it when they do that, but I hate when they tell you that. You know. So
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I would love for that game to come out and be as good as that first one, but there is no way, I think, at this point, with the development hell it's gone through. But, man, it's a vampire RPG. It's not the most complicated thing in the world. And we're 5 years into talking about this thing still. And, like, all those little games that they've released in the meantime have been all over the place. And that doesn't help, right? If those had all been, I think, really good quality, I think there'd be kind of like a little different dialogue on it. But I think one was good. One was,
I think Swan Song was well
yeah, and I
received.
think the other one was like the coteries. No, I think it's a French word. Coteries. But that one I think was destroyed. So Coteries of New York, I think, was one of them. And then there's another one I think that was kind of like somewhere in the middle. So yeah, kind of ups and downs. And I think if all three of those kind of blasted out the gates, we'd be talking a little bit different.
Yeah. Coteries of New York is listed as mostly positive on Steam, but that doesn't always tell the whole story. All right, so there are some rumored games that might be coming out this year. So, Blasto, I know you mentioned that you weren't looking forward to anything that had been officially announced. Are there any rumored games, like games that haven't been officially announced, that you might be looking forward to?
I would be super into that Wolverine game coming out for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I mean, other than like another 3D Mario would be great. Whatever Nintendo does next, like, I'm sure I'm gonna have a good time with. But I really don't have like any. It's not like going into 2023 was, where I was like, okay, there's a good handful of games I know are coming out, and I know I'm going to enjoy the shit out of. It's just like I'm waiting for 2024 to surprise me, and I hope that's what's going to happen. That we're post pandemic, like these last few years, we've just kind of been getting like what everybody was working on through their pandemic years.
Yeah,
and
yeah, exactly
I kind of feel like now is going to be like where everybody's had some stuff up their sleeves, and we're going to hopefully see some surprises in 2024.
So
The one thing I keep holding out hope for is a new Donkey Kong game.
Yes.
It's been forever since we've gotten a Donkey Kong game, and there've been so many rumors.
Sequel for sure.
Yeah, like for a while, people were saying it's going to be 2D, then some were saying 2.5D, then some were saying no, it's actually a full-fledged 3D platformer. So I don't know which one it's going to be.
Great.
Yeah, DK64 sequel with all the annoying bits taken out. Sure, I'd be so down for that.
As long as you don't mean
and not just because
DK rap when you say annoying bits.
Oh no, they have to put the DK rap there in full.
Just on a loop as you play. Just never ends.
I think it should be an unskippable cutscene when you boot up the game every single time.
And like it comes with a mic, and you have to like rap along, or the game won't start.
I wonder if for Steve, if that would be better or worse than a Grant Kirkhope soundtrack.
Yeah, Steve's a buddy of ours who really, really hates Grant Kirkhope.
Very specific.
Refers to his music as clowncore.
There's an actual clowncore though. Do you know that?
You mean like Insane Clown Posse, or like?
Have you ever heard of this? This is okay. So clowncore is these two guys. They're like actual like jazz musicians, like famous jazz musicians, and they dress up like clowns and they play like music inside of like porta potties and stuff.
Like, is it core CORPS or CORE?
Clown CORE.
Okay.
I'm not making this up. This is the thing.
I thought, like, for a second, I thought you were talking about like a clown army corps.
No.
Like like a bunch of clown
Encore.
troops
It's like
going out to fight the jesters or
yeah,
something.
they're like an experimental band that dresses up like clowns and plays in weird places and like.
Okay.
Okay, I don't know why I know about this.
Oh, I believe you 100%. I was just like trying to process this.
All right,
like,
hit the clown core. That's our outro.
Yep. Outro
clown
music.
core.
Clown core.
So, I think the rumored games I'm excited for. One, I feel like I hallucinated this, but this is something, right? IO Interactive is making a James Bond game, right?
They are. I completely
Yeah.
forgot about that. I don't even like James Bond.
No,
I just want to
but
play a James Bond game made by IO Interactive.
it's like a match made in heaven, right? So I'm excited
Yeah.
about that. Trespasser, I don't think I would consider that a rumored game, but I've heard rumors with Mass Effect 5 are starting to heat up, right? So maybe as Trespasser winds down, we start hearing more about Mass Effect 5. And then
What's Trespasser?
that's Dragon Age.
Oh, you mean Dreadwolf?
Dreadwolf.
Trespasser was the
the
Inquisition
DLC. I don't know why I was
DLC.
thinking that. Yeah. The extension of Dreadwolf is, I think. And then the last one was Eidos, I think, has been teasing a new Deus Ex. I don't know if they've said anything, announced anything. I remember there was like something where there was like some trailer somewhere though. And I think Deus Ex is somewhere along the lines of being something else. I think BioShock as well, maybe, but I feel like I haven't heard anything about that.
Yeah. There's a studio called, I believe, Cloud Chamber that's working on it. Or am I confusing that with Ken Levine's new studio?
Yeah, I can't remember. I know there's been rumors about that. And Crimson Skies. I think there was like a rumor about a Crimson Skies comeback. So if that gets announced, oh baby, I loved me some Crimson Skies. Top tier Crimson Skies experience. I know the guy who wrote the novelization for it. Well, I used to go to his comic store. He's the nicest dude ever. Shout out to Eric Troutman up there. If you need comics in Lacey, Washington, go to Olympic Cards and Comics and talk to Eric. He's also the guy who came up with ODST, by the way. So real cool dude. But I loved Crimson Skies, and if that gets announced, that's pretty much all I'll play as soon as that hits.
Yeah, I mean, Microsoft has had the IP for forever,
Done
and
nothing
they've just
with
been
it.
sitting on it.
Done nothing with it.
Yeah, it's got that kind of Sky Captain-y kind of vibe.
And like the alternate history where like the the United States is all divided up, and it's all air pirates stealing stuff from the industrial states of America. That felt cool, Yeah,
more like modern, like I don't know, like almost diesel punky kind of thing.
But
more of
it
that,
had like
please.
lore to it. It wasn't just flying around doing dumb shit. Like, man, fucking great game. And whenever you get those kind of games that just don't like get series, you wonder what happened. Some kind of development hell types, thing. But Crimson Skies was great.
All right. On that note, let us call this episode to a close. If you'd like to keep up to date with the podcast, you can follow us on our website at avocadogamescast.wordpress.com. On that website, we post each episode along with a link dump that links you to some of the stuff we talked about and provides fact checks for some of the stuff we messed up talking about.
Yeah, and you can see the actual scores tabulated, so you can see if Merve was cheating. Feel free to call him out on that.
I mean, I just can't resist cheating. It's in my blood. Sneaky Canadians.
Crunch those numbers for me, people of the avocado who can do math, please.
Yeah, we need valid.
I could literally just share the spreadsheet.
It's cheating.
It's cheating to share this.
Be like, actually, the negative points are legit. Here's the math. Like Goodwill Hunting it. Develop a new branch of mathematics to show.
I don't know if you know enough mathematics to understand why you can't prove that would make sense or not make sense.
That's what we know about mathematics so far, Merv. I don't want to correct you.
How do you like them apples?
Making some new math here.
I mean, you can generalize probabilities are a specific case of what are called measures, which are themselves specific cases of what I believe are called signed measures, which can take on negative values, but you're generalizing probability a lot to get to that point.
We'll see.
But that's okay. If you want this podcast to turn into a lesson on measure theory, I can go dig up my old notes from undergrad on that course.
Or just a
I
bunch
don't
of
like the sound of them apples, Will. What are we gonna do?
Or we could just play Clowncore. We can review Clowncore albums from here on out.
Oh no! You want to turn this to a math podcast? Let's turn it into a math podcast. I'm going to ruin your brain.
We'll do math while we play Clowncore over.
How do we have any listeners? So you can also subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and or Spotify, or wherever pods are caught. So any podcatcher of your choice, we're probably on there.
What they're called now?
Just search for podcatchers. Yeah, like this pod indexing services that essentially just crawl Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts and Spotify. The only main one we're not on is Amazon Music because have been lazy. I just haven't gotten around to following the link to add us in.
Merve, next
like
episode.
how Amazon feels about everything they do.
Yeah, if you call the podcast like XCIJELP, then post a review, they'll give us 100%, right? Next episode is episode
100.
100p.
Yeah.
Yeah. Somehow we've made it to 100 episodes. Kappa and I are going to plan something special. We don't know what that special thing is going to be, but it is going to be a special episode of sorts that will celebrate the history of our long-standing friendship with Brandy Pitchford.
Sonic.
We'll invite him onto the show.
The complete history of the Sonic games. We're going to do a deep dive into Kingdom Hearts lore. All the hits, really.
Oh, Jesus.
Could you imagine if we got like... Can you imagine if we got Randy Pitchford, Jaleel White, and Haley Joel Osment together on the podcast?
Stood in line with Jaleel White to get a Nashville hot chicken sandwich in Los Angeles.
You could have got him
It was
on the
fantastic.
podcast. And all we'd have to do is talk about Sonic and just real deep cut questions about like what's the leaders of the engine on the Sonic Racer. That's all the questions we really want to ask.
Ask him about Howlin' Rays. He'll I guarantee you he'll have a story because that motherfucker waited in line with the rest of us, like with the rest of us normal people.
I love that.
He didn't even skip the line like, "Hey, I'm Urkel." Like he waited like a normal
Raleigh
person.
has the Comic-Con every year, and there's basically one restaurant near the con, and it's just like everybody goes to it like after the con. So you can just sit there and it's like, oh, there's Bruce Campbell eating a pork sandwich. You know what I mean? It's just so weird. Like everyone goes to that same restaurant. So
It's like how people all go to In-N-Out after they win Emmys.
yeah, apparently that's a thing, right?
Yeah, like, I mean, I don't run into celebrities where I live now, but when I was living in New York and LA, I'd frequently just pass like celebrities going about their days. I remember one time I ran into Adam Sandler, I think chaperoning a kid's birthday party in Santa Monica. Like I just left him alone because whatever, he's going about his day, but people were like stopping him in the street and like trying to talk to him, and I felt so bad for him. Just like he's trying to like, I guess, chaperone his daughter's birthday party. Just leave him be, dude. Come on.
Same thing happened to me. I was at like a Rouse in Studio City and saw Mila Kunis and Ashton Kutcher, and they were like with their children. And I was like, oh, cool. I'm shopping in the same Ralph's as, celebrities. And I was just going to leave it at that. And then like on my way out the store, I saw people swarming them for photos. And I was like, this is why they send... like an assistant out to shop for them. And when they do that, then the press is all like, oh, look at these, high and mighty people who don't go shop for themselves. And it's like, well, they can't leave their house without being accosted.
It does really suck to live that kind of life. But I suppose the money makes it better. And on that note, thank you for listening to our podcast. We will see you next time for episode 100, the big 100, Hundo P, whatever you want to call it. Until then, have a safe journey to wherever you're going and happy gaming.